Hello everybody. Today we are going through a rather large haul, a rather inadvisable haul, a haul driven by FOMO, but it's not the actual FOMO haul from my FOMO show. This is like FOMO Prelude to Road to Path to FOMO, because this is the stuff that I was ordering as I was beginning to be afraid of being afraid of missing out. You don't have to adjust your screens unless like they're at a weird angle for you or something, because it is I, Crisis with a K, coming to you from a clear but clearly frigid morning here in New Zealand. Last week, one of the days that I was on my way to my morning swim, it was actually 1 degree Celsius, which is the coldest temperature I've experienced since leaving the United States. And that's about the quality of the air and the temperature today here in my office. So I'm very glad to be with you today. You know, recently I have a speech impediment recently. I've been doing a lot of data-driven videos for you, and they will be continuing, but I have such a massive haul just off camera here that I realized if I did not do it this week, there would be nowhere else to walk in this room. So I'm going to be going through all of the books that I've accumulated over the past couple months. Some of them you will be absolutely shocked I've added to my collection. And I have to say, I am not advocating for this. I am not here doing this kind of haul and being like, oh, you should do this. This is normal. This is advisable. This was partially driven because I needed some stuff for guides, but a lot driven because of fear of missing out. So I'm going to take a picture to document what I look like, because I forgot to do that before we started. And then I'm going to say hello to a bunch of people, and then we're just going to dig into this haul, because there are easily, let me see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24. There might be 40 books. It's not, I'm not well. Okay. So, just know that going in, and know that you have been warned. Okay. Now we'll remember what I look like for all posterity, even though, of course, there's going to be 3 years of that, or 3 hours or years of that recorded on YouTube. It's so cold, my tongue's not even working. Okay, let's see. Pity Ma got in the first hello, no FOMO there. Logan Wayne singing our traditional "Been Around the World" and "Ay." Lisa Stansfield song, not even realizing that I had made that the description of this video, because that is the amount of brain share I have with some of the long-standing crushers. Speaking of which, our most regular Super Job is here. The only FOMO Super Job has missing one of my streams, and that is because Super Job reads probably 10 times as much as anyone else, as you know. Super Job will be like, oh, just decided to have a little fun last week and read like every Star Wars comic ever published. I admired the dedication, and I wish I had the time. I have FOMO of not being Super Job. Ellen and Cedric are here. Bonsoir. Yorne Pauls is here. My near neighbor, Wiccan, is here. Kia ora to you. Steve Patterson was waiting in line very, very early. Super Panda can't be here, but I wanted to say hello to him still, because I know he appreciates when we have these chats at the beginning. Same for Matt H. Max Appleman, you just need to know, he's a wonderful human and a terrible influence, especially when it comes to purchasing. If you're somebody who has a FOMO problem, you don't know if you want Max as your conversation partner. That's where I am this morning. Executive producer Max. Edwin Billiot is here. Richard B. and John are both here. And Richard B. was enjoying the Aftershow last week. So I do have some Aftershow news. If you're not a regular, what we do here is I try to stay on topic to the best of my ability in this main show. And then if you want to talk to me about like anything that's not the topic, San Diego Comic-Con developments, new series announcements, my hair and makeup for the day, those things all go in the after show, as well as like any Q&A you could possibly want to ask me. I don't think I've ever declined to answer a question. And that link is in the description below. And then afterwards, and not so long afterwards as it used to be, the link shows up on Crushing Crisis for patrons. But you don't have to be a patron to engage in it the first go round. You just stay until the end of the show, and then you get to come to the after show, and then it is archived for posterity for patrons of Crushing Crisis. Just a few more hellos, and then we're just going to tuck into the stack. Comics Dude asking which country the highest postage. This is on topic, so I will answer this one. The United States postage to New Zealand is killer. I know a lot of you will buy from Fanaticals on eBay who have absurd prices on things. I had a Fanaticals cart that was about $80. It was 3 Epic Collections and an omnibus, and the shipping was going to be $180, and that's US. Sometimes from the UK, shipping is like a steal, and I don't know what that's about. I don't know if there's like a special shipping route that like FedEx or UPS or somebody has established from like the UK to Australia to New Zealand that makes it cheaper, but I do notice sometimes UK shipping to New Zealand. I told you my tongue's having problems. Is it a pro or anti FOMO type of haul? It's I think I'm anti having this FOMO because I have run out of shelf space. I literally am out. Like, I came in here last night and I reorganized everything to try to make things more, all the things I'm always like, oh, I wish I knew where that was. I tried to like put it at arm's reach for the show, and I am out. I'm totally out. Why am I still buying books? I can't explain it to you. I just like buying books. Okay. Hello Tangle is here, and I haven't seen Hello Tangle for so long. Has just switched apartments and everything is still chaos. It will start to resolve into less chaos. Scenics Tuesday's here. FOMO 3, Revenge of the Online Shopping Carts. That's what was happening as I was putting together the show. I was still FOMOing hard. Saz Murph is here, and FOMO can be contagious, and you can worsen your own FOMO. So a few weeks ago, this is actually useful information. A few weeks ago, I did a show that was my FOMO 50. It was the 50 runs that I had either fear of missing out on or regret of missing out on, and that I really wished that I'd gotten in some physical format. And then, based on your feedback on the show and the fun we had discussing on the show, I started price shopping. I started comparison shopping for a few of them. And since then, just by virtue of having had the show, some of these were things I have not looked into for years. Some of these are things that I had already missed out on them being for sale. There's one thing I'm looking at on the floor that I could have had for $40 a few years ago that I spent at least 3 times that, if not more, on. And because I had a list to work from, suddenly I started buying things. I have now acquired 20% of what I talked about in that FOMO show, but that's not what this is. This is the stuff I started ordering to be like, oh, I don't even want to put that on the FOMO list. Let me just buy it. Lance the Library is here. Pudding Tame, Kia ora to New Zealand Hawkster, and Kia ora again to Wiccan Solar is here. Goody, who I actually connected with their profile on another network, so now I actually know who Goody is. Northlake Ghost, who I think we could fairly call a regular now. Among the Fool is here, we haven't seen the past few. One Wheelchair X, who I'm going to be streaming with next week, counting down our ranking of the best, or perhaps worst, X-Men flagship writers of all time. Morena to, oh my gosh, Samantha, Mr. Tex saying hello. Jamie C, oh my gosh, now then we get into speed round. Jamie C, Ali Nazari, Gary D62. Have we said hello to Gary before? That name doesn't sound familiar, but my tongue knows nothing this morning. Monk Cause is here, and the only Kane saying only 40 books. Oh no, I was reading the only from your screen name. 40 books, we're in for a ride. Yeah, I mean, if I can even get through all these books. Hello to Patrick as well. Okay. And Elon Reese, my friend. Looking forward to what I picked up and why. Well, hopefully I justify it all as well. And Tigereyes, I blame Tigereyes because this all started while we were doing the Tigereyes poll this year, and Tigereyes got me into those cross-gen omnibuses, and I feel like that like broke the seal. Like, you know, so it turns out that the bladder, here's some anatomy facts for you. The bladder works as like a wave function. Like, it's not like you just have to use the bathroom when you have to use the bathroom. There's always a little bit more. And so that idea of like breaking the seal at a party, it's like, yeah, you're like, I emptied my bladder. Why should I have to keep going? Why are we talking about this? Why should I have to keep going? But it's because you've like now like unlocked the muscles, you've loosened the pelvic floor, and now your bladder's like, well, there's always more. There's always more liquid in your body to eliminate. That's how I feel about omnibuses. Ever since Tigereyes got me interested in this, which is Sigil, which is part of the cross-gen universe that probably got an omnibus from Marvel. And I was like, you know, it's on sale. I got more and more interested in it the more and more I learned about it. And I was like, you know what, I'm going to buy it. And that kind of broke the seal a little bit of me realizing, you know what, I don't have to only buy X-Men omnibuses. I can buy whatever omnibus I want. And once that realization struck my body like lightning through my bones, then I was in trouble. Okay. So here we go. I truly don't even know where to begin. Sometimes I put them in like a little bit of an order, and then today I didn't. Let me just move the guitar a little bit so I can reach more easily. If you have not been able to tell so far, this is going to be a slightly distracted accounting. compared to some of my normal streams. Okay, let's just start with this little vial here. Okay, good thing my arm is better and I could lift things. All right. Ooh, one wheelchair saying, oh, hello to Zerta. And happy Spider-Man week. Hot news. I was supposed to be on Near Mint Condition tomorrow to talk about every Spider-Man omnibus ever. We have moved it back one day. It's going to be on American Tuesday instead. I just had a few too many things pile up for tomorrow. And One Wheelchair X saying that finally the blue and gold Omni was available again for a decent price in the UK, probably because it restocked. And I ordered it, but it's been stuck in pending. Oh, I hope you didn't miss it. There's a few things of that nature here. So I just started with a random stack here. Okay. I have all of the Hellboy library editions that are like called omnibus, but they're like a normal size because I started buying the BPRD ones because that was the best format to get BPRD in. Hilariously, I have read very little of Hellboy, as has long been established. However, I actually have read everything in this. So this is like the world of Hellboy. It's not tightly connected to Hellboy, but it's Koshchei the Deathless 1-6 and Koshchei in Hell 1-4. And I remember reading it and being like, this is amazing. I think this was one of my like modern entrees into Hellboy where I was like, oh, I probably should start reading more Hellboy because I enjoyed this so much. I think it was actually in my like top 10 of the year because Koshchei I think is like an actual historical figure, and sometimes Mignola plays with that in the Mignolaverse, and I couldn't tell you why I loved it, but I just remember really, really liking this book. So I do kind of out of habit buy anything that's BPRD in this format still, but I don't always buy every single from the Hellboy universe book. But I bought this because I was like, well, I actually remember really liking it. And yes, that means that Hellboy is one of these things that stretches past my 2016 barrier. Alan Ruba, it took me a while of rewatching videos to make notes and chapter marks and stuff, but you're SUIBX. I didn't realize the connection at first, so I stopped singing your name. And Goody loves Koshchei the Deathless. There you go. I wish I could summarize it for you, but I would have to go back to my notes. So, okay, this one is a FOMO, and I forget if this was officially on the list. Maybe it would be helpful if I brought up the list, and then I can tell you if things were on the list. No, I know what it is. In addition to my FOMO list, I also have my runs I want to read before the end of time list. And they kind of like have a connection to each other because sometimes if something's not super readily available digital, or even if I've read it digitally and I think I might want to reread it, I will then get it physically. So I haven't decided yet if this is for me or if this is for Kid Crisis, because we both really like this. But I got On a Sunbeam by Tillie Walden. It was because I was making another order and it was just convenient to put it in. This is a lovely book. I love this book, and I'll talk about it for a minute. It's just too small for me. It's just a little too small. And I was hoping, like, I know I saw the form factor and I saw the height of it, so I got that it was not going to be an omnibus. But I don't think I thought through how big these page margins were going to be. So here it is next to Koshchei the Deathless. And Koshchei the Deathless is just like a standard trade size, right? So here they are compared. It's a lot smaller, and it's a thickum. Like, it's as thick as an omnibus. So this is a standalone graphic novel that I think maybe it was originally a webcomic by Tillie Walden. It is absolutely phenomenal. I read it for Old Reader, New Reader on Near Mint Condition with Maddie and Kristen, and I absolutely loved it. It's about this girl who's at sort of like a space school for girls, and you don't know why she's there or why she wants to leave there, and she gets to leave there and kind of do some work, but you see that she has some very interesting connections to some of the other women she meets along the way. It's very meditative. It has some very abstract pages, but then it also has some really great cool stuff about relationship and kind of just the intersection between the imaginary and the real and kind of the scientific and the fantasy. But it's very, very abstract, and it's also, it's YA, but I wouldn't say it's a kid's book necessarily. And I don't think it's super young YA. I think it's actually quite challenging YA. I would kind of put this in like the 10 plus range. I'm just looking for a page that really captures that like whimsy of it, and I'm not finding anything perfect, but it's absolutely stunning. It's one of my favorite things I've read in the past couple of years. I think because I was hoping for it to be bigger, so since it's that size, I think Kid Crisis might wind up with that on her bookshelf. Okay. Oh, I can't do this one next because I have to introduce something else first, so that makes sense. All right, back to the stack, shall we? Ooh, I got some movies. Actually, no, before I talk about movies, I used to get all Marvel Legends figures. This one's Max's fault. Max, are you listening? This is you. This is on you. I used to get every Marvel Legend, and that just became unfeasible because the shipping to New Zealand was crazy and I needed the money for like life. In the States, it was so easy. You would just go to Target and they would be on sale for like $13 and you would just get a couple of them and keep up. I had all the Build-A-Figures and everything. However, every so often they'll put one out that I'm like, that's one of my favorites of all time. I feel like somewhere up there is my Dazzler. So Dazzler, of course, I was going to get a Dazzler figure. This is probably the only other Marvel figure, and guess if you think you know. It's the only other Marvel figure that is slightly obscure enough that much like when they did Dazzler, I was like, okay, well, I have to buy that. And that is Rachel Summers as Phoenix. I'm probably not, she even has a little mini Excalibur 1. Look at it. Look. So it's Rachel in the classic Hound costume with two huge Phoenix wings. There's an alternate face with her for the Hound face. And I was making an order from the States where I was from Amazon, which I really do not do very often. And I had the ability to put some non-book things in there, including my long sought after underwear that is almost out of print. I'm obsessed with out of print underwear. I'm afraid it's going to go out of print and I won't have underwear for the rest of my life because it's the only underwear I like. And I was like, I can put a non-book into it. And so I was like, you know what? If this goes away and then it's like $200, I'm going to be angry with myself, just like the stupid Mr. Sinister figure. I should have bought the original, not the X-Men 97 one, the original one. And I didn't. And now it's like $100. I should have just bought it for $20 because I like Mr. Sinister. So now I have this. She will be somewhere in the background. We'll add her to the shelf with the lore for now. I don't always like to leave the Dazzler out because things get so sun bleached in this room. But yeah. Okay. Here. Okay. So in that same order, because I could put things that I didn't have, that I wasn't just books. And then I'll look at a couple comments. Do any of you know this movie? I know I've talked about it before. It's called House. And it's like a horror comedy. Like this guy moves into this house and then it abducts his kid. He's a divorced horror movie novelist coming to terms with the disappearance of his young son. When he inherits his late aunt's old mansion, Roger decides that he's found the ideal place with which to pen his next bestseller. Unfortunately, the house has malevolent supernatural residents of other ideas. I used to watch this with great regularity as a child, which makes no sense. It's from 1985, and I probably was watching this as like a 6 or 7-year-old. What was wrong with me and my family that I was watching this regularly as a 6 or 7-year-old? What is it rated? It must be an international copy because it says it's rated 15. So, which who knows what that means. But 15 is a lot older than 6. And so it's kind of like, it's like kind of funny, but kind of macabre and terrible. And I literally haven't seen it since I was probably like 7 years old. And so again, I was a rare US cart and I saw this and it's been in my cart forever. And I was like, you know what? It might be terrible. But and it's not like, I guess I could rent it on YouTube, but when something is like $8 to rent or like $16 to buy, I'll just buy it because if I want to watch it twice, then it pays for itself. So I will report back. I'm actually going to sit down and watch a movie. I know that rarely happens. Okay. Let's see, all sorts of people. Do I have the BPR, all the BPR? Yes, unless I've somehow missed one, which I know they get very hard to find if you miss them, but I think I have all of them. Yeah, Tigereyes and Kazar. Kazar too, which I think I finally shelved on the shelves downstairs. Yeah, it's you. It's your, I'm going to blame all of this on you. Let me know to where to send my invoice. Comics Dude talking, to Samantha about her favorite Spidey on me. I would love to hear that. And maybe if I do a Spidey show on this channel at some point, I will have to have Samantha on as my guest, much like I have one wheelchair on as my guest when it is X-Men. Mr. Tex is loving BPRB so far, but just having trouble finding them. Yeah. James Moore saying, Tillie Walden is the cousin of a local comics making friend of mine. I gave her a ride in my car once. That is so interesting and cool. And FYI, Koshchei is pronounced Koshchei, at least according to a past Ukrainian girlfriend. Koshchei, well, I can remember that because it reminds me with Koshchei you say, like Shantae you say. And that's how I remember anybody's name or how to say anything. It's all mnemonics. It's turtles all the way down. I don't know actually anything. It's all things related to other things. Among costing, I'm avoiding FOMO money-wise on some of these by keeping a tab on my local library open. That's the thing. I do start with my local library, and I will say that the New Zealand library system in Wellington is pretty great, but it's very kid book oriented, and the more obscure or like mainstream adult comic it gets, the less likely that it's going to be there. Scott Johnson loved On a Sunbeam, excited to get their new book, Charity and Sylvia. I also kind of want to read Clementine, even though I've now learned that it's part of Walking Dead from, I think, the FOMO show or my to-read list pile. You all told me that. But, I do FOMO underwear stream. It's not exciting underwear. I was going to show it and I was like, is that not like a pair that I'm wearing. I was just going to show you the package of the underwear. It's just Hanes underwear. But you have to understand that in my neurodivergence and OCD-ness, I can't have different kinds of socks and I can't have different kinds of underwear. This is turning into just the after show, but whatever. This is the mood that I'm in today. I have to have all of the same underwear so that every time I reach into the drawer, it's the same underwear. They could be different colors, but I don't want to spend executive decision time on like, oh, do I want the underwear that's got this waistband or that way? No. I will never leave the bedroom or the house if that's where I have to spend my first executive function of the day. And I'm the same with socks. I do have like dress socks, but they all match. I have brown dress socks, black dress socks, and white like normal everyday socks. And those are the 3 socks I have. And those white socks, I probably have 80 pairs of them. Because I never want to make a decision about that. I have so many other things to make a decision about. One Wheelchair X saying, I really want to get the new Outback Psylocke figure, but I'm not really a Legends collector and I don't have the money to become one. Not the Japanese one. Maybe we're talking about House. House is a blast. I've never heard of House. The Japanese one is good too. But I don't think that that's based on the Japanese. I don't think they're related. I could be wrong. House is such a great movie. William Catt, Richard Mole were awesome in it. See, apparently it at one point played in New Zealand. 15 is a lot older than 6. You learn something new every day. Okay, let's continue. Since I was talking about kid stuff, and since you were talking about Tillie Walden being local, I want to show off this little pile that I got for Kid Crisis. This is Stuck. It's a book in the ongoing Click series of kids graphic novels by Kayla Miller. I first met Kayla Miller at the same miniature comic convention in, I want to say, 2016, where I met Chris Claremont. And at the time, they were just this local cartooner. They had this cartoonist. They had this webcomic called Creep, which I have physically. I was going to bring it on camera, but there's so many things to show anyway. That was about this kid who drank an irradiated juice box and got like Mr. Fantastic stretch powers, and his 2 best friends knew, but he didn't want to tell anybody else, and so they're trying to like solve local crimes, and it was just so stupid, and I loved it so much, and I used to read it with the kid. Not stupid in a bad way. It was like very, very wholesomely silly. Also, he was gay, but it was like he was gay. He was just a kid who happened to be gay, which I always appreciate in comics. And so Kayla Miller did this book, Click, for, I think what is this song now? Clarion. I thought it was on HarperCollins. Oh, it's an imprint of HarperCollins. Originally, the spine said HarperCollins. Just about this girl in high school going through friend stuff, and it really clicked. And now this is the 6th book. Kayla Miller has this very distinct way of drawing faces with these little geometric noses where you can always see like the tip of the nose. It was the same all the way back when they were doing Creep. And so I just got the first one for Kid Crisis just on a lark, and Kid Crisis loved it. And so I've continued to buy them, and they're not, sometimes I miss them on DCBS, and they're not for sale here. And so anytime I'm making orders from anybody in the States, I will grab one of these. I just think they're so charming. Really, really great for, I think Kid Crisis really started getting into them when she was like 8 or 9. So really great for like the not 8 to like 14-year-old set in your life. And there's a whole ton of them. And I bet in the States you can get them from the library. They became so popular that it spinned off a second series called Besties from the world of Click. And Kayla Miller continues to co-write, but they have a co-writer and they also have an illustrator other than themselves on these. And so I always like to, because I don't buy a lot of things from the States all in one go, I like to kind of like stock up a little so that I have stuff to give to Kid Crisis for like birthdays and Christmas and holidays, and we do things on solstice and equinox. So I just like having a little stack, because it's not like I can just like 2-day Amazon something, Yeah. Wiccan saying, I used to buy Legends, but I don't need that FOMO anymore. Exactly. I used to be like, every new Legends line that came out, I was like, okay, I've got to get this new line. Let's get in on the ground floor. I got to get the whole thing so I can do the Build-A-Figure. And like, that, I just can't. That can't be a part of my life anymore. Okay, let me grab a couple more things from off camera. I have to scream so you can hear me. I've noticed sometimes when I go off camera, I don't talk loud enough. Oh gosh. So this is a obvious one because we know I buy everything in this series. It is Wolverine, Not Dead Yet. And even though it doesn't have a number on it, it is effectively the second to last. So what is that? 7th omnibus in the Wolverine omnibus series. It collects Wolverine 119 to 158 and then a ton of other stuff. So this is actually a pretty big one for Marvel. It doesn't look that huge, but with how thin the paper is now, this is a pretty big Marvel omnibus. So that is collecting 40 issues just of the ongoing of Wolverine. Then it has Wolverine Annual 1999, Wolverine Black Rio #1, Wolverine and Cable #1, which is an OGN, Wolverine Punisher Revelation 1-4, which is a Marvel Knights title. I didn't know if they would actually put it in this. Iron Fist and Wolverine 1-4, and Hulk 1999. So it's a pretty hefty amount of Wolverine comics. Now, I don't have any great love for this particular run of Wolverine, and we've got it in Epic, I think, all except for the very beginning part of it already. It's not my fave, but we're just so close to complete coverage, and I get everything X-Men from this period. So we knew I was going to do that. And I couldn't remember if this was public or not, because sometimes you have to think that I'm at like multiple levels of the Omar shoot. Like sometimes I'll talk about something just before Omar announces it with Omar, if I happen to talk to him about it. And then I see the Omar announcement, but that's for patrons. And so sometimes, and then there's the official announcement, but then the name's not in the title. So I really get scared about referencing something new that Omar announces. Because yes, this is all post Hama. Jamie C, this picks up after Hama, and it's written by all sorts of people. Warren Ellis, Tom DeFalco, Chris Claremont, Todd DeZago, Fabian Nicieza, Eric Larson, Eric Stevenson, Steve Scroach. It just goes on and on and on. It's really, there's no primary writer in that run. It's a bunch of short runs. Koshchei, you stay. Okay. Let's continue. All right, let's do a few of the finest and epics right off the top of the stack, because we all know that I'm getting all of those, although maybe not all of the ones that you thought I was going to get. So let's just do a couple here. So staying in the realm of X-Men, we have X-Men Volume 14. This is Mutant Massacre. It is titled Mutant Massacre. It has X-Men 211 through 219. It also has Spider-Man versus Wolverine #1, Fantastic Four versus X-Men 1-4, and X-Men versus Avengers 1-4. So this one's a pretty good buy. I know a lot of people with Epic Collections are like, do I need every single Epic Collection? I personally like the Epic Collection, the two before this, a lot. But this has a lot of really incredible material. It does have my favorite X-Men issue of all time in it, which is X-Men 213, shown here with the classic Alan Davis cover, directly across from Psylocke's opening page as we're introduced to her as an X-Man. It also has the issue where they recruit Dazzler to the team, because Dazzler's only appeared in like 3 issues or 4 issues of Uncanny X-Men up until this point. 214 with that Barry Windsor Smith cover, and it has amazing Barry Windsor Smith art inside with Dazzler in a dark wig playing keyboards in Lila Cheney's band. So this has a lot of my favorite X-Men comics in it, and I really think you can pick this one up all on its own. It has so many good issues in it. I mean, there are things in here that relate to what happened in the past few, especially the plot of X-Men versus Avengers, which is very contingent on having some knowledge of what happened in Uncanny X-Men 200, which is in the prior one, or maybe even 2 back. But this might be the best X-Men Epic Collection other than Dark Phoenix. Dark Phoenix is probably like the one. And then this one is probably, in my mind, the second best. So huge fan. Some of my favorite comic book issues of all time. Next, I have a DC Finest. DC Finest Supergirl. This is our, how many? third Supergirl DC Finest, one of which, however, was from 1959 to 1962. This is our second one, handling the Peter David Supergirl run. This collects DC Supergirl 19 through 35 and 1 million, and a crossover with my personal fave, Resurrection Man 16 and 17, as well as Team Superman Secret Files and Origin, Team Superman 1, Supergirl Prism Double Shot, and a story from Adventure Comics 80-page giant number 1. I do not know this material at all. This paper is different. This paper is different. This is a matte paper. I don't know if you're going to be able to tell on screen. It really looks lovely. I mean, I'm not complaining. It holds the colors actually extraordinarily well. The pages look great, but I am sure that is a different paper. Oh, maybe not. It just feels so matte to me. No, I guess this Finest had a similar paper. Sorry to raise the alarm bells. It just feels really different. I don't know, paper has variation, like as much as they try to standardize it. Gosh, the art in this is really good. Oh, it's Leonard Kirk. It's like early Leonard Kirk art. Yeah, this is every page I open to, I'm like, this page is amazing. Just page after page after page of really fantastic artwork. I'm so excited to finally get to read this Peter David run, and I hope they keep cruising through it. I've yet to open up to a page that didn't look cool. Leonard Kirk. Okay. Really hope they finish Peter David's run this time. The Epics kind of started that trend of like, can we finally get through some of these runs that we've been messing around with trying to get through forever? And the Epics finally accomplished that, and I'm hoping DC Finest does too. There's certainly some unfinished business that both Marvel and DC have of runs that like just never really get all the way completed, and I'm really hoping they stick with it here. I was reading Dazzler's solo series when I decided to pause my X-Men binge. Totally unrelated. Dazzler's solo series is pretty nuts. Yeah, we did not read the Dazzler series in line with the rest of X-Men when we were reading X-Men in the house. Do I ever think they'll collect Weapon X in Epic Collection? Already announced, my friend. It is going to be in Wolverine Epic Collection. What is the one they just announced for? Even though Wolverine Epic Collection does not usually collect Marvel Comics Presents, they usually leave that to the omnibuses. They decided to put it in the next Epic Collection because it's not only such an essential story, but also his main title is also dealing with Weapon X stuff in that period. And so it makes perfect sense. Goody saying, I just got that X-Men Epic in the mail yesterday, and I have all of the X-Men Epics. Sure, save me some money not going down the Pad, Aquaman, and Supergirl rabbit hole. How do you stack them against his Hulk and Young Justice runs? I don't really know his Young Justice runs. You have to think I have a huge... I don't know the Aquamaners... Well, I know Aquaman. I don't know Supergirl because I have a huge blackout of like 2000s DC. It was after or even late 90s DC. It was after I stopped reading comics originally, and before DC Finest, they weren't really accessible. So this is all new to me. I truly can't rank them against each other, and I'm just collecting them because I want to see all the Finest on my shelf and get a chance to finally read them. Hank is late in, but love Kirk's art, owned about 5 original art pages from a series that I love, and it's where I fell in love with Leonard Kirk. No, actually, probably fell in love with him on X Factor with Peter David, Captain Britain, and MI13. We didn't miss it. It just got announced in the most recent. We're talking about Wolverine Epic 4 again. In the most recent set of Epic announcements that was only like 11 days ago in near mint condition. It's not solicited yet. Like, just keep your eyes peeled. Okay, I have some more Finest and Epics to get through. This is DC Finest Fourth World. It is the first one that they have released. It is called When Old Gods Die, and it collects 1970 and 1971, and it follows the typical DC convention of combining all of the Jack Kirby Fourth World series together. It has New Gods, it has Forever People, it has Mr. Miracle, and it has when he takes over Superman's pal, Jimmy Olsen, which calls into question if that will then mark the end of the Superman family run when we get to this point in Jimmy Olsen. Now, this has mostly been collected, and I believe both standard size and oversized hardcovers by DC a few times over, but there's always a little bit of post-Kirby material that I feel like they haven't collected really well, because I feel like we've always mentioned it on the Tigereyes poll. This is another one that I just have I have no knowledge. I have no experience with Jack Kirby's Fourth World whatsoever. I've never touched it because I didn't used to buy DC and Oversize. Now this is available to me. So I do think it's interesting that this is a new title line and they decided to dig into it when it has been so accessible already in other formats, and it's going to take a lot of epics or finest to get through it. I mean, oh, is this new? I haven't opened a Finest for a couple months now. Here in the back, they have like a Finest timeline now. I don't remember that. I don't know. Apparently, I just have amnesia, though, when it comes to Finest. Because you heard me say that I thought the paper was different. I swear that Supergirl paper is not the same as this paper, though. Okay, but... So I was kind of surprised that they opened this line, because I was like, really? Like another Finest line open? But it's material that's in high demand. And I get the feeling that for some things, when DC knows that it's like just about reprint time for that thing, they're like, oh, what if, like, let's just reprint it into Finest, which is what everybody's buying right now. Goody's saying, I have all the Finest. I love being able to collect this amazing line from the beginning. I agree. The FOMO got me bad. I skipped the first couple months and I was like, no, they got me. They got me, gal. I just got the Jack Kirby Fourth World box set, but once they finish in Finest, I might switch, says Monk House. And I love the Fourth World wacky stuff, even the Jimmy Olsen issue, says Lance the Library. Next up, I have the final collection of Micronauts in Epic Collection from Marvel. This is Micronauts Volume 5, the original Marvel years, The New Voyages. This is the whole second Micronauts series, The New Voyages, that started in 1984. It has all 20 issues of it. I don't know a single gosh darn thing about the series. I'm passingly familiar with the original one, but not with this one. It's all entirely written by Peter Gillis and is mostly drawn by Kelly Jones, which I did not even know. I mean, they're just such fun, bright, cool, toyetic characters with all these different skin colors and all of these different kind of neon looks. But I really don't know very much about it at all. I've been waiting to get it all in one place. So now it moves officially off of the I'll never get to read this list onto the I finally can read this list in Epic Collection, now that I have all 5. When will that be scheduled for? At this rate, probably 2025. Or that's past 2035. There is also a new Iron Man Epic Collection. This is Iron Man Volume 19, Crash and Burn. It's Iron Man 298 to 309, Annual 15, and Tales of Suspense #1. And I want to say that, is this John Byrne or is this Kaminsky? This is the Kaminsky era. So a lot of people in the Tigereyes poll agitate to get this Len Kaminsky stuff in Omnibus. This is the first time it's been reprinted, maybe ever, definitely in a while. I just don't think it's Omnibus levels of popular. Although, I mean, it's great double page spread here, which you don't see a whole ton in comics of this era. A Thunderstrike just knocking back Iron Man. I actually, probably, of all of the Iron Man Epic Collections, I probably have the most Iron Man in singles that's from this Epic Collection. And you know that I love my neon 90s pre-digital colors. But I don't really remember a whole lot from reading this. So, rereading all of Iron Man from the beginning, not necessarily highest on my list. But I am happy to see the Kaminsky stuff collected. Okay, and then this one is a big one. So this is Batman Blind Justice. So it is the next Bat book in perfect chronological order moving forward from Crisis. So we have Batman Year 1 and Year 2, Batman the Killing Joke and Other Stories. So that one ended on 4/22. Then there's another one. Then there's another one. I don't know. Have I fallen down to my shelving duties? Then there's another one somewhere in this room. See, this is the problem when you turn into me. Then it's like you're sure that you've bought it. You know that you've bought it, and it's not on the shelf when you think it is because you did something clever with it, like maybe bring it to another room to read, and now it's on your shelf. Anyway, Justice is blind like a bat. I don't know how I love that headline. But this collects all of the post-crisis stuff from 1989. It has Batman 430 to 435 and Detective Comics 596 to 603, which I know does not sound like a lot of issues, but it's a pretty big book. Yeah. Let me just look at the table of contents for a second. So I know a lot of people are really excited for this as we continue to push further. We are still far away from any of this that has been in Omnibus. I probably could like open up that sheet that I'm in charge of keeping that explains every DC Finest ever and tell you which one that's missing. Let me see. Year 1 and Year 2, Killing Joke. A Death in the Family. I know it's here. I know we've talked about it. I know I've shown it on the stream. But I don't see it. Somewhere in this room, somewhere within the sound of my voice, is Batman Death in the Family. And I don't know. I can't explain. No, here it is. Here it is. When I'm into normal reading patterns, how many books or trades do I read at a time? I tend to only read a maximum of 2 ongoing things at a time that are like longer projects. Like I'm in my Batman read and then the house read of X-Men doesn't really count because that's just like always happening. But I'll be like in the middle of Batman. I'm trying to think, there's something else I'm in the middle of right now that I'm chipping away at. But then with current issues, I'm kind of just like always swimming in the tide because there's just so much. So what's the material in that Batman DC Finest like? Well, I think this is actually where I am in my read. So I don't think I've read this yet. I think this is now ahead of me. So I am not familiar with this material. And I know it's crazy, but like that's a lot of, no. I have read some of this because I recognize these write-ups, which I think are from Detective 600, because I remember being like, whoa, they let Penn and Teller do a write-up about Batman. So I probably have read this material, and I would just have to look at my notes to tell you about it. Okay, let's continue. Okay, now the stack is looking more manageable. Let's do some things that were truly FOMO, and then I'll do a few things that you will be absolutely shocked by. So one of the trickiest things about my FOMO here in New Zealand is that if it's something that didn't go on DCBS and it's not like an IST normal item, I have very few people that ship to me. Like there's not a lot of bookstores in New Zealand and they do not have like niche graphic novels. And there's also no Amazon here. There's no cheap graphic novels here. They don't even ship abroad. There's no panel bound comics here. It's too expensive. So if there's something a little bit obscure that for you is just like a $5 buy, for me, it's not. So when I did my first experiment with doing the pull list, which was back in 2021, I was reading this very strange black and white indie book called You Promised Me Darkness, about a group of children that were all born different times, so different years, when a meteor passed over the Earth, and they all, if they were born in that period, had special powers. It's not only black and white, it's like mostly black. It almost looks like it is woodcut, and it's just truly, truly an unusual comic book. And it's a comic book where it's hard to even know sometimes like who the characters are or who we're rooting for. There's like some people that are trying to take over all of these unusual children. There's this weird alien guy who just lives in a library. There's a woman that's maybe a cat. There's somebody who thinks that they're a superhero. It's just like, and I love really kind of strange indie books, and I love kind of like weird world building. And ever since I read it originally digitally, and I bought every issue digitally, and it's just been like in my head ever since then. And it's not like it was ever a sellout or hard to find. I probably nobody's trying to find it, but I learned in that FOMO show, I can't talk about the thing I'm trying to find until I found it, because then you all bought Gogor and it sold out before I could buy it. And I had to get some local copy shipped to Omar, who's now gonna have to ship it to me in New Zealand. But that aside, so I finally decided that I didn't want to wait any longer to maybe have it or maybe not, because these things, like who knows how many trades got even printed of this, like 2,000. And so when it's gone, it's going to be really gone from finding it anywhere. And so I got it, because what I discovered and what I had not read yet is this very brief sequel, Follow Me Into the Darkness. Now this is really, really slim compared to the first one. I mean, it's maybe a third of the size. And but I didn't even know it had happened. And so I was really, now this is on a different paper for sure. I'm not just hallucinating. This is on a glossy paper. which gives the black a really different quality. It's just like a, a flat black on a matte paper really swallows up light a lot more. This, I feel like the whites pop a little bit more, and the black just feels much more deep and not swallowing things up as much. So I'm excited to read them both. I mean, I really, really remember loving that first one. Yeah, it's dangerous, says Novark. Hello to you and to your character, L. Dangerous outing your interest on YouTube. It inflates the price and everyone will be hunting for that comic or action figure. The Jotun just wants to reach to the screen and steal some of those epics. And Logan saying, I think it's a smart idea to keep notes on what I've read. Yeah, Logan, especially at the amount that I read, like, when I usually read anywhere from in a low year, like 12 or 1300 comics a year, to a mid year, which is usually like 2,500 to 3,000 comics, to a high year, which has happened 4 or 5 times now, 4,000 comics. It's not that I'm binging them so fast that I can't appreciate them. That is not the goal. But it's like when you read 4,000 distinct units of something a year, are you going to remember which one you liked or which one had the cool fight that you enjoyed? You're just not. And it's the same about music. And that's why I don't like Spotify and I do like iTunes still, or Apple Music or whatever, because for me, just giving something like a thumbs up or not, or like a favorite or not, is not enough context for me to remember what I thought about that song. I need like multiple stars, and then I need the ability to like make comments and put it in lists and group it with things and stuff. And so, as somebody who really loves media so much, without that ability to add my own contextual information, it just all becomes lost to me. I remember in the early days of Twitter, there used to be API-based services that you could add on to Twitter that would basically let you use Twitter like a customer relationship management platform, a CRM, like a Salesforce or something, where you could make notes on every single person you followed. Like, I followed them because I met them in a bar. I followed them because they draw comics I like. And I just remember that, like, I was like, oh, this makes Twitter so much more useful for me. And I spent a whole week one time annotating every single person I followed on Twitter so I could actually remember the relationships, which is something I have trouble with talking to some of you sometimes. There's just like, I'm really good at remembering your profile pictures and the first few letters of your names. And then if you change your display name or change your profile picture, it's like our whole relationship disappears from my brain. So here's another indie book that has been on my list for a while. I think this was on my 100 runs to read last year. It's Kid Lobotomy from the short-lived Black Crown that was an imprint at IDW. I loved pretty much every single thing I've read from Black Crown. They did Euthanauts with Teenie Howard and several other books that I really, really enjoy. And this is written by Peter Milligan, who's a little hit or miss with me, but it's got art from, hold on one moment, Tess Fowler, and lettering from Aditya Bidikar and colors from Lee Luffridge. So it's like an all-star team. And then I looked up I think I read like one issue of it, and I was like, oh, like the art is really, really good. And it really strikes me as Peter Milligan very much in Vertigo mode. And so I've been looking for this trade paperback for a while. Also, Punk's Not Dead, which I love, which has art from Martin Simmons, who is the artist on Department of Truth, is also from the short-lived Black Crown imprint. It's always such a bummer to me when an imprint arrives and it's like exactly the thing that I love and then it doesn't last. That's how I felt about Aftershock comics. Aftershock had such a high quality bar. Like, of all of those 4 or 5 issue miniseries, I just loved all of them. I don't know if I ever bought a single Aftershock physically, because it all was after I got here. And none of it quite raised all the way to the level of like Punk's Not Dead or Euthanauts, where I was like, oh, I'm going to read this 100 times. But I liked a lot of Aftershock, and I just kind of felt like, wow, they get it. Like, editorially, they are right where my brain is. And then they went away. And I feel like, it's what teaches me that maybe my taste is not the normal mainstream taste, because every time I fall in love that hard with something, often that thing goes away. Don't it always seem to go that you don't know what you got till it's gone? I'm looking, I have one book here that I know I can talk about, but I feel like there's a second, well, maybe it's in like a future order. I was sure that there was a second book. Okay. ADHD Theater continues. Don't worry, the Gambit in a crop top will be my profile picture for life. I was thinking about cosplaying somebody from X-Men. I was like, oh, if I cosplay Gambit, I could wear the crop top. Okay, here's something funny, which I'll use to introduce something else. So this is Pussycat, and this is for sure illegal, this book. And the reason I say that is I bought it from this crowdsourcing platform called Lulu. that lets you do print-on-demand books. But baby, these things that they scanned at very, very high quality and printed on demand in this little book, this is all from Marvel magazines. It is not public domain. And I wanted to show it because on the Omnibus poll, every year, there is this very engaged voter whose feedback I appreciate, who's like, you didn't put Pussycat on the poll. What about the Pussycat strips? This is the size. Okay, this, I don't know if this is every Pussycat ever, but this is how many there are. And so this was $10 and I was ordering something from Lulu anyway. So I was like, let's see. We'll be the judge of Pussy. And so I got Pussycat, and it's a very, very sexist take on this very prototypically dumb blonde who is very buxom, who staggers into being a spy and getting into all of these spy situations. If you like that sort of silly editorial cartoon from Playboy or Penthouse or from men's magazines of the 60s, that's what this is. Now, I think if Marvel felt like it, that they could potentially put out an omnibus that has all sorts of editorial cartooning from all sorts of those books from the 60s. Is Marvel ever going to do that? No. Is Marvel ever going to notice that these people, Minx Comics, put this on Lulu.com as a print-on-demand book? I think not. And honestly, the scans are really good. Like, we can go in really tight on that. There's maybe a little bit of fuzziness to some of the line work, but like, look at the skirt and the shading on the skirt and how well it comes through. So I kind of was ready for it to be crappy, but it's like really well done. These people care about their 60s lad comics. So, yeah, I mean, I thought it was really cool. I was actually happy that I bought it. And so the reason I got that is because I was ordering something else from Lulu, and I wonder, am I the first person who's getting to show this on stream? And by the way, Lulu is international. It's print on demand, so they're assembling and printing these books as you order them. And they have locations in many different places. So I got to order from the Australia place. So shipping, I mean, it was still like $20, but it was only $20. It was 20 New Zealand dollars for these two books. That's really reasonable. So you can get them in the States, you can get them in Australia, New Zealand. I'm sure they must have a European and UK printer as well. So I think I might be the first person on YouTube to show this in a haul, which is very exciting to me. This is the first of, I think, what's going to be several volumes of Thimble Theater, which is a daily comic strip that started in 1919. And it is the comic strip that eventually gave us Popeye. But at the beginning, it just had Olive Oil. And this is the first release from Boring Comics. And you may know the founder, owner, and operator of Boring Comics. It is one Curtis Findlay, Eisner nominated, although unfortunately not Eisner winning, or Curtis Findlay, who you know from the Epic Marvel podcast and from the Near Mint Condition channel. And so you can see here on the copyright that Boring Comics is copyright Curtis. And so Curtis, these are actually public domain. And so Curtis who knows where he's getting them from? Like, if he's like getting them off of microfiche at a library, I have no idea. And I'll have to ask him. And he is scanning them and restoring them. And I think this is the first complete print collection of this pre-Popeye stuff. So if you know your Popeye, I mean, the cartooning is already very, very recognizable. And there's already a very, very recognizable Olive Oil. And also, I feel like I recognize some of these other characters as well. I know. Oh, and here's Popeye. I don't know if he's actually known as Popeye at this point, because I literally am just opening this for the first time. So this is, I love that it's like a wide book like this. I just, I took out for comparison. Here we go. I had my Wonder Woman newspaper strip dailies. Now, of course, this is a hardcover and it's professionally produced, but I just wanted to show you by contrast the difference in size. So this is, I don't know, what is that? Maybe two-thirds size of one of these. And I think there's other books like this that are like the Spider-Man dailies and stuff. And I will say that, it's nice to read these wide strips on bigger pages like this. That said, I don't really have any complaints about this form factor. It's very pleasant to hold. I would never be able to tell you that it's a print-on-demand book. I mean, there's nothing about it that seems Like it just, and the way that print on demand works, by the way, if you didn't know, if you're at a print on demand place and there's a certain amount of demand for copies that's ongoing, they don't keep printing them one at a time. They'll actually stock some things if there's sales demand for those copies. And some of the places you can actually pay them to keep some of your thing in stock. Like you can be like, oh, can you start out by printing like 300 or whatever? But then for stuff that is slightly more obscure, as I'm sure copies of Pussycat are in the Australia, New Zealand region, they are literally printing and assembling the book as a one-off. A lot of people have said, couldn't Marvel or DC do this as the way to keep their stuff in print? It's a very complex juggling act. So here's Curtis saying all 9 volumes of Thimble Theater will be available soon. And then also advertising for another one, Van Boring. He never says a word in the newspaper, complete newspaper comics of Frank Tashlin. So I'm so happy to get to support one of my friends doing something that they really love. I love to see Curtis kind of flexing his ability to like really get into the world of being one of the people who's keeping these books alive. These comics are over 100 years old. This is from September 1920. I'm not saying it's a fantastic read. I mean, in terms of content, you need to like newspaper dailies from the 20s and 30s, which I do. So I know that I will like it, but just so cool to hold in my hands. I love the coloring he did on the cover. I'm assuming he probably colored it. And I'm just so proud of him, and I think it's so cool, and I hope that I am truly the first person that gets to show it off. It is written and illustrated by Elsie Chrysler Cigar, collection edited and designed by Curtis Findlay, strip restoration from Curtis and Katie Findlay, and introduction by Camden Spies. The strips contained in this collection are in the public domain. This book is not associated with Kingfisher's Syndicate in any way. Very, very excited. Very, very proud. Okay. Let's see. Oh, many of you were talking, Kane saying that's why I like my streams. I talk about books that aren't mainstream because of that. Has expanded my interest in books. People saying things look awesome. Oh, maybe that was about the, either Kid Lobotomy or the Promise Me Darkness. I don't know. I'm like 15 minutes behind at this point. Mr. Tex saying hello. James Abel coming through with a link to the Lulu shop for that product. 1919, what says Alan Nazar? Ellen and Cedric saying maybe Fantagraphics or Dark Horse will publish the Marvel Pussycat material. I mean, that's the direction it is going in, and everyone praising Curtis. James Moore saying my friend Julian did variant covers for both Kid Lamati and Punk's Not Dead. Columbus, Ohio is truly Comics Town, USA. Ooh, does it have the variant covers? Let me see if it has them. It does. Hold on. Supplementary materials. Here's a variant by Frank Quietly, which is kind of amazing. Here's a variant by Eric Knett and Tamra Bonvillain. So we're looking for one by somebody named Julian. J.H. Williams, Rory Phillips. Here we go, Julian Desai. I love that. That's so cool that you have a personal connection to this. I love when books have variant covers in them. They ought to. Like, let us enjoy that in collection. I was so excited to see that the new collections of the Absolute books that they're going to be doing at DC are going to have all the variant covers in them. I know that Curtis showed it off in the stream, Andrew, but Curtis doesn't count. He's the one who made it. Of course he had a copy. I want to know if I'm the first one who hauled it. Okay, Eisner's second place winner, Curtis. And Olive Oil's original boyfriend, Ham Gravy, who in the Robert Altman movie with Robin Williams, that I have seen, played by Clary Loudermilk in Legion, and Cyclops in the most recent Odyssey movie. I had no idea that Max was going to take us down the deep Popeye knowledge hole. Okay, and Fui Nguyen saying, longtime lurker, me and my partner just want to thank you for my enthusiasm, community, and thoughts. You'll have made re-entering comics that much easier and enjoyable. We'll watch the replay. Oh, that is so tremendously kind of you. Okay. I mean, we're maybe halfway. Oh, there's the other book I was looking for. Okay. Speaking of FOMO, for no reason, this is how you can tell. I really want to be a cautionary tale for you here. And then where was the other one? I just had my freaking hand. I really want to be a cautionary tale for you here because this is not okay. This is not normal. I did not need to do this. Okay. Let's just start from there. I bought the Epic Collections of Astonishing X-Men. Now, I have this in the original trades that I bought from the spinner rack at Tower Records, and I have it in Omnibus. And it is absurd to call this an epic collection. You already heard me go off on this in the Modern Epic stream, that these books only just replace the existing complete or ultimate collections that are just collecting one half of the series and one half of the series, which is an amazing series, one of my favorite of all time. And if you just watched X-Men 97 last week, some of this one's going to look familiar to you. Or is it the other one? No, it's this one. Or maybe, is it this one? Which one is it? No, it's this one. Yeah, some of this is going to look familiar to you. But I bring it up because I am hoping that they are going to continue this epic collection to the Warren Ellis material that follows. And if they did, I would enjoy it being recollected in a more coherent way than the original trades. That said, they've already fucked up so bad here because they didn't include Warsong or Endsong or Kitty Pryde Shadow and Flame or Joss Whedon's stories in Giant Size X-Men. So these are not epic collections. They're not epic collections. They don't do what the epic line is supposed to do, which is collect all the stories relevant to a run. These don't do that. And I'm not even buying all of X-Men in Epic Collections. They skipped the new X-Men Epic Collections because I have that material already. Again, I don't even have the omnibus of New X-Men. I think it's too big. I have the original oversized hardcovers, and I also have it in complete collection, which were the first 3 comics that I bought when I first moved into my house in 2010. But I saw this going out of stock, and knowing the state of Epic Collections right now, I was like, those original trades are kind of meaningful to me, and it's like, I know they're just trade paperbacks, but if Kid Crisis has really expressed that she wants to read this, she's very used to reading things in epics. She has all the X-Men epics from the Uncanny era. So I was like, I could give these to Kid Crisis. They could go on the epic shelf. There was no reason. I don't have a real reason that I bought them. Nor do I think you, but the thing is, Astonishing X-Men is a run that ought to be in print at all times. And the fact that that's the format that it's in print in right now, then that's in print. The Omni is not better. The Omni suffers from the same problem. But the Omni has the excuse of being the Joss Whedon, John Cassaday Astonishing X-Men Omnibus. So it tells one complete story, and it makes sense that it's only those 24 regular issues and the giant size issue. I'm saying, given how tiny, look how tiny. Even let's just compare it to like a Micronauts book. Not the one from today, but the previous Micronaut book. It's like just as small as one of these licensed Micronaut books. And we know that Marvel needs to make those small because they need to recoup the cost of the license in selling the books. But there's no license to recoup. This is their material. It's not restored anymore. It looks exactly like it has been collected in the past. When it comes down to it, there are just another 17 or 19 issues that they could have easily split between those 2 books, and they still would have been a proper size for Epic Collections. Ozepics. Despite the problems, at least the modern Epic Collections are a good way of collecting material where you don't exactly want to advertise the names of some of the writers, and I do think that absolutely that is the case there. Every year in the early years, Pussycat always voted on the same guy. He never gave up in the stream. I want to, honestly, Tigereyes, I know where he is on the Marvel Masterworks boards, and I want to be like, do you want me to send you do you have the, surely a Pussycat fanatic, a Pussycat connoisseur would already have this, right? Who knows? Okay. I got those X-Men, still have yet to read them. Oh, Souls on. I mean, look, the Joss Whedon run gets a lot of flack over the years of like, oh, it's just all about him being witty and blah, blah, blah. It's too, it messes with continuity. Like, people always have some grumbly concern other than the Joss Whedon of it all. It is highly entertaining X-Men. There's just no way around that. It's so entertaining. It's so fun. The characters are written in such a fun, snappy way. I think it really solidifies the personality of several of those characters. It's probably the most fun anybody has had writing Kitty since Claremont and Davis. I just think even though I have problems with it to this day, and now there's the Whedon problems on top of that, there is no denying that it is the most accessibly pop culture relevant X-Men run that exists. Like, there's just no getting around that. So highly, highly, highly recommended. Okay, I like the paper in Modern Epics, says Jonah Pauls, because glossy dark pages leave all the fingerprints. Richard says, I worry that me and One Wheel Tracks are going to put Whedon above Morrison next week, and it's going to make me sad. Well, you never know. You never know. We will give the chat. Isn't the third one in the way? No, they have not announced another Astonishing X-Men. You would know that if you would like to catch up on all of the epics that have been announced, including all the modern epics. That was this stream last week. You can see me explain it line by line, exactly, with mapping and everything. Oh, and they'd be the same price as the normal epic. Okay, this one avoided being on my FOMO stream because I'd already hunted it down. Because when I scheduled that show that I did with Maddie, the Old Reader, New Reader, 2 weeks ago, I wanted to read this, and I had it in PDF, but I wanted to get it physically for the show. So this is called Garden of Spheres. And it's book 1 by Lene Sturt. And I just heard about this randomly on the Reddit sub Graphic Novels. Somebody just like posted images from it, and it was available on her like Twitch.io. And the way that it works is there's like 1 or 2 full color pages in every chapter, and then it reverts to black and white. And it just was describing this absolutely beautiful world, and it like goes from showing creatures to landscapes. It like has this like Garden of Eden being constructed kind of vibe, and it's just absolutely stunning. This was Eisner nominated this year. It did not win. And then we start following one person through this newly created world. And I read the first PDF of it, and I was like, it was a rare book where I was like, I need to see this physically in order to totally digest all of the level of detail. It wasn't working for me on like it was, and I liked it. But here's the thing. So Lynette Sturt prints all of her books through Pial2, which is a publisher in the UK, Pial2. And they do have a US distributor. They do not distribute to the United States. So I had to email the distributor to be like, or they don't distribute to New Zealand. And so I had to email them to be like, how do you think I could get it here? And they're like, oh, we have a partner in Portugal that does worldwide shipping. So then I was like a whole merry-go-round. So this is a paperback that has a dust jacket. Really unusual. I don't know if I could say that I have any other paperback. And look at the emboss there. Can you see that that's actual gold ink? Not on her body, but on the title. And then the back. So this is a 5th color ink. So this was, I think the price was, I want to say that it was $35, and the $35 I think was pounds. There are some places in the United States that you can get it for $35, but I wound up paying the conversion on that. So I'm so excited to read it. I actually want to get Maddie to read it, but this is like the top of my pile right now because I already read the beginning of it. French flaps. I thought French flaps were when the book was paperback and it just had flaps. But this is a normal paperback with a dust cover. Because I thought that's what, I could be wrong though. Northlake Glows loves Pial2. You can get a lot of their books in the USA from Stuart and Ning online. Yeah. I mean, it's just so gorgeous. So Goody, I will read it and I will report back. But then, again, this is what happens with me, and this is why my FOMO is a little bit different than your FOMO. If I'm making an order from Portugal, and I'm like, well, I'm going to be paying $30 shipping anyway, I'm like, what else can I put in that order? So I also got this, another book with amazing 5th color printing on the cover. It's an emboss on this crazy neon ink, and this is called World Heist. This, I think, is French flaps. I think that's what French flaps is. But also her books, this is not a printing error. It's a certain kind of printing where the spine is not actually adhered to the page block. And that is not an error. It's not a mistake. It's actually because you can see how all the signatures are sewn. And it makes it easier to open the book flat. Here's a page where we can see right down to the signatures, right down to the sewing. So first of all, just a book being called World Heist, I'm like, I'm in. And again, her line work, there is just something about it. I don't know. You all who know like your classic independent like European BD, is this like Mobius or something? Like, what would you say this influences? Because I don't have enough influences in my repertoire to like explain this style of art. But so I was like, well, if I'm going to get that one, I'm going to get this one. And then, oh gosh, it just is so beautiful. I can't wait. This is, as soon as I'm done this Spider-Man show with Omar this week, I think I'm going to sit down and read these Lynette books. But then she had 2 other books. And you know me, if there's 2 books that I'm getting by somebody, I need all 4 books. But that printer didn't have all 4 of them. So I had to track the other 2 separately. One of them is not here. But this is called, and this is the one that you all probably have seen, Frog and the Fall and Later On. Because I've even seen her little frogs. I think Trixie Mattel has something with these frogs on them. But this has a slipcase. This is wild. So this has a slipcase. And then the actual book is a wide book, okay? And it has no spine. It's all exposed, I guess is that Smithsonian? It's all exposed binding. So as soon as I open this, I don't even think I fully realized this from looking at a picture online. I was like, oh, I love that. Because I'm a print nerd. Like, I know I'm a continuity nerd. I'm a nerd of a lot of things. But I love printed matter that is fun to touch and constructed. I mean, there's just something so cool and pleasing about that to me. It's so cool. And so this just follows this little frog. And it reminds me of Frog and Toad. Do you remember Frog and Toad? Who are actually totally gay for each other, as it turns out, the children's book. It just kind of reminds me of that in a way. The toads are getting ready to leave. I can hear them moving about in the guest room, but it's still quiet, dark outside. They must be heading out just as the sun rises. I find this enchanting. And it's heavy because look how thick this cover board is. It's like a thick cardboard cover board. And the pages are all really thick. Those cats have a boat. We sure do. I'm obsessed. This is, I know you know me as this like big X-Men fan and whatever, and you know, Wonder Woman and Dazzler. But honestly, I think a part of the reason I love comics so much is I grew up on storybooks. I grew up on Roald Dahl. I grew up on Shel Silverstein. I grew up on Maurice Sendak. All of that stuff, Frog and Toad, all of that stuff is what I was surrounded with as a kid. So I think comic books were like a natural expression of that. And as much as I love my superhero comics, stuff like this, it just takes me to this place that makes me feel so happy and comfortable and nostalgic inside. And it just feels so good inside when you hold me and you touch me and you love me. Whoa, oh. Okay, now we're going to get to the big honkers, and there's a lot of them. I need a minute to assemble my big honker Avengers. Oh my god, they're so heavy. Jesus, Lord in heaven, driving a bicycle that's actually a recumbent bicycle. Oh my gosh. Okay, do you want to see? Can you picture, hold in your mind's eye right now, the thing that you think it would be the most surprising for me to ever own? Okay, picture it, summon it in your brain. The thing that you would never expect me to have a physical, why would I have a physical copy of it? It's a author I don't like. It's a disgraced artist. It's a character I am on the record as hating. Who thinks they know? Look how big the page block is. I want to show you how big the page block is without showing the cover. Look how much. Are you ready? Dun 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 bum 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 bum. Here's the thing. Oh, Elon, Stages of Rot is the one that none of them had in stock, but I found it and it's on its way to me right now. Okay. I know what you're thinking. I did not shift on Hal. I don't like him. Here's the thing. I don't know a lot of 2000s DC. And at a point, this became one of my reads that I was like, you know what? I'm just going to go back and read it. Even if I don't like Hal, it's classic. Everybody talks about it. I'm going to go back and experience it, right? So I started reading the Maid Run. And then I started trying to weave in Green Lantern Corps. And I was like, this is so annoying. Like, and I wasn't going to buy the Omnibus because the Omnibus doesn't have all of Green Lantern Corps. And I was like, I like Green Lantern Corps more. I always do. I always say that. I love Green Lanterns as a Space Force, as Jedis. I love almost every Green Lantern Corps run that I've ever read. I just don't like how, but combined with the Green Lantern Corps stuff, I was into it. And so I never wanted to buy the omnibuses. I wasn't going to buy the absolutes, and I was reading it digitally, and I was just not having a good time. So then this happened. It's so big that I don't know if it's actually going to be reasonable to read it. It's over 1,500 pages. Look at it. I mean, it's gigantic. But here's the thing. I wasn't going to buy it originally. Then I heard Omar talk about how it's like the Omar approved reading order. Like DC was like, hey, have you seen this? Does it look right? And he's like, you could do this. And that the future volumes also have Omar's stamp of approval. And then I was like, oh shit. Oh yeah, man, give it to me. And so then it went out of stock in IST. And then I was like, ooh, mark safe. I'm not going to buy it. It's out of stock. But it was still in my wish list. So I was looking at it, and like sometimes that's my strategy. Like leave things in the wish list long enough for it to go out of stock. And then it came back into stock. And then I said, oh baby, I'm going to own John's Green Lantern. Why? Why would I do that? I don't know why I did it, but I'll tell you why I did it. Because of what I've read of it so far, I actually really do like it. And I hate to say, but that particularly disgraced artist, and we all know who I'm talking about, I did love his art back in the day. And so the idea of it all being collected into one place was just, and there's also Darwin Cook in here. And by the way, I mean, so the gutters in these compendiums can be challenging, especially at certain points in the book. They could be very, very challenging, but I think you know what you're getting into. Like, you know it's a compendium. You know that you got this for the cover price of $59.99, which you probably got 30 to 50% off of. So you're going to deal with some gutter loss. And if you don't want the gutter loss, you're going to buy it in one of the other formats. So I have this one. I ordered the second one as soon as it came back into stock too. So now I'm going to have that too. Because I have real problems with my brain. That's why. But, oh, that's not all. Did you think that I would get away with only being that stupid? No, my friends. No, sir. No, ma'am. No, they, them. Because if I was going to be making a DC Compendium order, I also got this, which I know nothing about. Absolutely nothing. I have no idea what's in it, or what. I just know that it's compendium. I was making a compendium order anyway. I mean, I know what's in it because I have a Teen Titans guide, but I've never read any Teen Titans before New 52, I don't think. And I'm sure I'm not. I mean, could this be as good as Perez? I don't know, but I'm going to find out. So it's Geoff Johns' Teen Titans. And then I finally broke down and got this too, because people were like, but the mapping's so good, blah, blah. And they solicited a second one. I'm like, all right, well, I guess my rationale is if we're doing DC Finest, and if these are each 2 to 3 DC Finests long, them putting these out seems to be a signal that they're not going to be approaching that part of Finest anymore. And if I'm trying to have a whole DC recompiled library on my bookshelf, then I probably want to get these compendiums so that they can shelve alongside the Finest. And then if the Finest replace them at some point, then the Finest replace them at some point. I do love them. Though. All right. So a lot of you, I'm a compendium person though. I mean, I increasingly am. And this is kind of like the payoff of me talking about compendiums all these times. Look, if you want a chunky book that's a compendium size and hardback, then you want the G.I. Joe Kickstarter. And let's not even get into my FOMO about that. That's my favorite comic run of all time, you barbarian. Well, we do know that I do be shit-talking some Hal Jordan and some Geoff Johns. Sinestro Corpse War and Blackest Night are pretty peak. Yeah, I'm excited to read those. I've only ever read like the first year. Like I've never ever read past that. John saying the mapping is amazing. One Wheelchair saying when I did this stream on DC Finest, I did look those up because I've actually read John's Green Lantern. I really enjoy it. And I think when I do my Finest recap stream, which will be in the same format as the Epic stream, I think I'm going to show compendiums as like optional, like kind of like, hey, you could continue 2 here on a compendium. Mr. Tex wanted to ask me if I would give in to John's one way or another. Where is volume 3? It's going to be coming. I mean, it's just going to keep happening. Rodimus Prime says, best Green Lantern run and add in Green Lantern Corps. And it's just a lot of fun, especially Sinestro War and then Blackest Light. Now I'm confused on what the buying rules are. Me too, Wiccan. That's why I need to do a buying rules stream. The art in it was top tier. Harvey Picar's Ghost, who I have not seen in a long time, saying, I've never read Jeff Johns' Green Lantern because it seems like it would be a lot of filler and EVS art never appealed to me. Yeah, I don't know that it's necessarily your vibe. Also, please note, canonically, if I'm talking about his Green Lantern run, I will say Jeff Johns. Even though I've trained myself to say Jeff Johns in all other situations, there he is Jeff Johns to me. I'm on the Fool has been loving the DC Compendiums. No, stop it, because DC Compendiums look so satisfying and I don't want to buy DC. Well, luckily, you live close enough to my house that you could take a jog over to here and just read mine, Wiccan. Balls, this is so funny. Harvey Pickers goes DC Compendiums over Marvel Omnibus. Let's not get crazy, because I do have some Marvel Omnibuses here, including the brand new X-Men gap filler. It is X-Men, the Trial of Gambit. This collects Uncanny X-Men 341 to 350 and -1, X-Men 62 through 64, because it technically all of Uncanny is happening before the issues of X-Men at that point. And then -1, Imperial Guard 1 through 3, Psylocke and Archangel, Crimson Dawn, although there were Archangels in Cy Spurrier's run on Flash. Bishop Xavier Security Force 1 through 3. I think that might be the first time that's ever been collected. Marvel Fanfare 4 and 5. Longshot #1. And material from Marvel Valentine Special 1997 #1. So in our house read, we just 2 nights ago finished Onslaught Epilogue. Our long national nightmare is over. So that means this is the next book that's up in the house read, the X-Men Onslaught Aftermath. I can't believe we're almost caught up to the omnibuses. That is crazy to me, because I've been reading Kid Crisis these since she was 5, and we're almost caught up. Finally, Marvel has had almost a decade to get ahead of us, and we're nearly there. So this is originally this and this were going to be one book, but they didn't have all those side series in. And I think a number of wiser heads, including Omar, prevailed to be like, you're giving up the chance to do this correctly. And so this is correct. I know it seems weird that it only has a few issues of X-Men 1991 in it, but it is the correct order to read these in. I don't love when they do spines that are like art wrapped and then the logo's on the art wrap because they do it all the way around. And then also there's words that are in this direction and then also an image, which mine is a little, I think it's maybe a little off center. That's too much. That's 4 different design elements, 1, 2, 3, and the 4 in the background. And I know DC has really gotten in the mode of doing these like vertical spines, but let me grab a DC vertical spine that I actually really like, which is this Dr. Fate. That's like not quite a compendium, not quite a DC Finest amazing book. This makes sense. It's a full art spine, but it doesn't wrap, so they actually put something relevant on the spine. It has the title in the same orientation as the other text, so it's not looking at one thing sideways, one thing not. I know with the X-Men title, you can't really run the X-Men title wide because it just would be so teeny tiny. And I know Trial of Gambit is a lot of words too, but look at the design on Onslaught Aftermath. Onslaught Aftermath is actually really, I find that really pleasing, right? Like that's actually really nice to look at. So I don't know, that Trial of Gambit one. And the thing is, you never know what spine you're going to get. It's not like you can look at the solicits and see the spine. So maybe, who knows, maybe the alternate cover had a better spine. I would never know that. Yeah, it's ugly. It's an ugly looking spine. Wheelchair has put off buying the post AOI books because I felt like I had more important things to collect first, but I'm starting to sell out. I'm starting to get FOMO. This is how FOMO happens. All right, we're moving towards the end here in that there's only 12 books left. Let me show you something else I got for the kid for a present. She grew up in DC Superhero Girls. I don't need to go super deep on this. This is the original flavor DC Superhero Girls. I know people like the Redux version. I found it too cynical and violent for me for a kid's show. This is much gentler. This is like a show for like 4 to 8-year-olds. And I think the second version of the show is more for like 7 to 11-year-olds. So as I've told the story many, many times, I was in California before taking our flight to New Zealand. I stopped by Comics Conspiracy, which is a very famous store that is run by Ryan Higgins, who's a great comics personality to follow online. I told him all about the kind of comics we read together, and I said, I need some stuff for the flight. We love Lumberjanes. We love this. We love that. And he was like, you should get the first couple DC superhero girls. They became characters in our lives, much like Lumberjanes. I find them genuinely funny. It's many of it, or most of it, is written by Shea Fontana, who's a DC editor, who is also a writer. And so for their 10-year reunion, they have come back to follow the superhero girls as they get together after graduation day years ago. Kid Crisis does not even know that this exists, and she is going to lose her mind when I give it to her later this week. She loves Harley Quinn. She loves Poison Ivy. She loves all these characters, and this is a huge, huge part of our lives for the past decade, and I'm just so excited to have one more to really wrap things up. Okay. I have to put that somewhere where I remember it's one of things for Kid Crisis. Okay. Oh, to think back to the times when the spines were all black with white text, right? Okay, a couple of other, let's see. Oh, I did promise more movies. Oh, here's another Kid Crisis thing. Okay. Speaking of FOMO, the whole theme of this is FOMO, the FOMO of things becoming lost media, the FOMO of things being digital only, and then the digital streaming platform they're on, taking them off, or them going away, and then they're gone. So that's how I feel about She-Ra, Princesses of Power, which was on Netflix and it's gone off, and they only ever collected the first 3 seasons in DVD. There's no DVD, not even a bootleg DVD of the other 2 seasons. Then we really got into this show, Kipo and the Age of Wonder Beasts. This is a little bit loud, silly, and shouty for me as kids stuff goes, but it's about this world in a world where there's this mutation wave that has happened, and everybody's normal parents, sisters, brothers, friends get morphed into animals. But also there are sentient animals in the world who are now just able to speak. So it's like, do you have a morphed person animal, or do you have an animal that's just an animal who's talking to you? And this girl, Kipo, who maybe has some magical abilities, is traversing this world to try to find a way to bring some of her family back from that. It's a very, very clever, funny, high joke density cartoon that has amazing music cues, and not like familiar stuff, just like really cool, weird indie stuff, and like hip hop, and just like weird picks for a kid's cartoon. And kid just like rolls around on the floor laughing about it. And I found that it was really, really adorable, even if it's not something that I personally want to sit on the ground and watch all the time. So I just had it in my cart. I saw that it came out in DVD. I was I'll get it for Christmas or something eventually. Then all of a sudden, all at once, all around the globe, everybody stopped selling it. And I was like, was there like a lawsuit? Did Netflix decide they wanted the contract back? Like, what happened to make it so that all of a sudden everybody started selling it? So then, of course, the FOMO started, and this had been like $14.99 the day before on Amazon. And then the next day, literally with it still in my cart on Amazon and eBay, because I was like looking at getting it, to have for school break to watch, because we just had school break, it went up to like $100. I was like, what the? So I was not going to buy it for $100, but I don't know why it went out of stock briefly. I don't think it was sold out because it was everywhere. It was like a stop selling order went out. I truly don't know. So as soon as it came back into stock, I'm like, we're not waiting anymore. We're not going through FOMO. We're getting it. So again, Kid Crisis. Okay. But I'll show one movie I got for myself as well. This is one of my favorite movies of all time. Network. You probably are familiar in isolation with some of the monologues and scenes. I love movies about communication and about news. I love Good Night, Good Luck. I love anything that's kind of about propaganda. Wag the Dog is a fun movie. Anything that is about the means and methods of communication and how it is used to address the public and who the real people are behind the scenes. So I've always really, really wanted this. This is from the Criterion Collection. I'm not an everything Criterion Collection kind of person because I'm not a movie person like Max. But when it's a movie that I love like this or like Hedwig and it's available in the Criterion Collection, I'm like, yes, please. So this was one. I don't order DVDs a lot, and I still have an all-region DVD player, so when I can, I still just like getting the regular American or kind of worldwide releases of DVDs. And so when I am making an order that can have DVDs in it, I will be like, oh, okay, I probably have a list that's like 10 years old at this point. Here's another thing that I can't decide if it's for me or if it's for her. So it's Making Comics by Scott McCloud. Scott McCloud, of course, a multiple Eisner Award winner. He's the writer of the seminal work Understanding Comics. And so Making Comics is just one level deeper of that, of like, now that you understand it, can you also make it? Of course, Scott McCloud, also the creator behind Zot, one of the books on my FOMO list and on my to read list. So this is much more technical than Understanding Comics. It really talks about like how you can actually set up the different scenes. It tells about how things can be emphasized, what lettering can do to show emphasis. It shows the importance of the choice of images, perspective, blacks and colors. It like really breaks down everything that works about a comic. This one talks about how every panel is treated as an establishing shot. I think this is a thing that many of us could stand to read so that we could have oh, it smells really good too. Fresh book smell. So we could have a better understanding of the medium that we love. Now, he just won another Eisner this weekend with Raina Telgemeier for a comic that's about a bunch of teenagers making comics together based on those making comics techniques. That I know I could get from the local library because it's Raina Telgemeier and they'll have it. So I'll probably get that for Kid Crisis to enjoy as well. All right, we're finally getting towards the bottom of the stack. So if we're talking about FOMO, this was something that I had in my cart forever. And when it went out of stock, I realized it was actually really hard to get here, but it's not like out of stock everywhere. So I was like, let's take evasive action now. And there's a particular reason I did it recently. So this is Dracula by Matt Wagner and Kelly Jones, which has French flaps. And I think that's what French flaps are. This is a book that's so, look, it's huge. Let me get a standard size paperback that I can actually hold in one hand here. I could not have had this haul earlier in my injury process because I really couldn't do this much. So here's a standard paperback and here's the Dracula book. So, so many of you have recommended this to me like over and over again because I love Dracula nonsense, but also I love Matt Wagner. And I just last week reviewed his new Grendel series, which I'm loving. And so this, now, Kelly Jones, I could be hit or miss with because it really depends on how Kelly Jones is inked and colored. Sometimes his stuff really pops off the page. Sometimes it seems really flat and like one-dimensional. This to me, and I finally like look, I finally looked up some interior art. I can't even see around it. It's so big. And I was like, oh no, this is Kelly Jones that I love. So this one went off of IST. And again, IST is the easiest thing for me to order from and the shipping is cheap to here. But this second volume was still on IST. I really enjoy the parallelism between the covers too. Like the one mouth and then the multiple because they're the brides, right? The art, I mean, I'm so happy that I got it. The art, this is absolutely breathtaking artwork. You guys made the right call. I'm going to love this. Kelly Jones. Oh, you know why? Because the colors are by Jose Villarrubia. That's why it's so good. Yeah. I feel like with a lot of classic artists like Kelly Jones, modern colorists don't understand how to give their work dimension. And like Jose Villarrubia understands how to do dimension on artwork like Kelly Jones to not let the inks kind of just eat all of the color. Some people almost like color around the inks, and so the inks just look really flat and the color looks really flat. Some people have problems like that with modern artists. Mike Perkins, I notice people always color him really weirdly because they think they have to like avoid all of the dark in his art. I'm like, no, color right up to it. Let your colors like have a relationship with the blacks. And so that's why I was really wary of this for a while because I was like, oh, Kelly Jones, I don't know. But then when I saw it, I was like, no, this is going to do it for me. Ooh, there's a really subtle deboss. Or no, it's an emboss on the spine too. That's cool. And that third one was just on DCBS. So I will be all caught up. Speaking of all caught up, Max Loves Network. Have I seen 3 Days of the Condor? No, I've never seen that. Network was prescient. I agree. Get mad, mad as hell. Wiccan saying, I myself have way more DVDs. My doc's input of all of them came up to over 1,000 than comics due to op shopping. Do I have DVDs or Blu-rays? I have like a very predictable shelf of like the nerd DVDs that you'd think I would have. Like, you know, I have like Star Wars, I have Lord of the Rings, and then I have like my little queer cinema corner where I have like Hedwig and I have Paris is Burning. And then I kind of just have like the big popcorn movies of like the 90s and 2000s. I have like Jurassic Park, I have Inception, I have Prestige. But that's just because that was, I first got a DVD player in the age of disc Netflix. Did you have Netflix on disc in New Zealand? I don't know if you do or did. And so there wasn't really a reason to buy a lot of DVDs and Blu-rays unless it was something that really I was going to turn on, like Ghostbusters. I watch the first Ghostbusters constantly. So I don't have a big DVD collection. We just reorganized it. And it's like 2 big pull-out drawers about that wide and then 2 shelves also about that wide. So, I mean, I've got a lot, but I do not have over 1,000. Maybe we need like a DVD comic book exchange program. I just watched Network last month. It's definitely an all-time banger. Angry as hell. Now, is it mad or angry? Have we Mandela affected into mad, but it's actually angry? Since I mentioned liking movies in the vein with Network, have I ever seen Ace in the Hole by Billy Wilder? No, I did not. Okay, Scott McCloud is so good. Oh yeah, I mean, I feel like I talk about Kid Crisis almost too much, but people here seem to have caught on. Northlake saying, I have a kid. I wish I had a kid so I could buy a comic and be like, it's for the kid. She's 5. She'll love the Preacher Compendium. The thing is, Kid Crisis has become such a savvy comic book reader at this point that she's reading stuff that I ostensibly am buying for me. There's something she asked for that I was like, really? You want to read that? I mean, she's been reading my Bendis Avengers. She read all of Golden and Silver Age Wonder Woman before I got through it all. Like, she's a very, very savvy comic book reader. And so I don't even, she really wants to read the original novel of Frankenstein and Dracula. And I'm like, well, if you would treat them nicely, I have my George's Best adaptations in graphic novel and they're unabridged. She was like, oh, really? So like, we're getting to, I mean, this, you know, you've been watching the channel for a while. I don't like to say exactly how old she is or anything, but like, you know that she's older now. And so like, there's really very few things in my collection that are inappropriate for her at this point. Yeah. People are saying that the Dracula book is Black Label sized. Hold on. If you let me get down on the floor for a second, I could get out Wonder Woman Historia and we could check that. But was Historia a standard Black Label size or was that like a special size? They're close. It's really close. It's really close. You all might be right. And that might just be honestly like just the margins of the hardcover. So yeah, I guess they are DC Black Label sized. Okay. Mystery solved. We're almost at the bottom. So I'm going to do some more Epic Collections and Finest. And then I'm going to end with the 2 things you all shamed me the most for not having. And the 2 things that I am perhaps the most ashamed for having. Okay? And then maybe one little fun thing too. So let's do a little step. We're really almost at the end. Then we're going to have an after party. If you haven't already, get the URL from the description now, open it in a different tab, put it in your clipboard, send it in an email to yourself, because we're going to the after party after this. Although this was a very wide-ranging discussion, so I don't know that you're going to have a lot of Q&A for me after it, but we do the after party. That's what we do. Last week there were two after parties. I was thinking I might see if Omar maybe would join me for an after party after the Spider-Man stream. No promises. We'll have to see. People tend to underestimate what age range is okay for kids with a lot of media. I went through an Alfred Hitchcock phase when I was 11 and 12. Here's an important thing, and I really appreciate Novarg saying don't dox myself, but in terms of information about Kid Crisis. But I really think something that's lost on parents now that are not really, and just any adults that share media with kids that are not super media savvy, is we, as an older generation, whether in your 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, we got to see the building blocks of the things that are the modern things. And so the modern things make an amount of sense to us because we got to see the influences on them. And so the thing that really clicked for me is that I'd been trying to get Kid Crisis to watch WandaVision, and she just was not interested. And I even think I showed her like a scene of it, and she was like, I don't get it. Then I showed Kid Crisis I Love Lucy, and we talked a lot about the feminism of I Love Lucy and how bold it was for the time. And even though they would make jokes about like spousal abuse, that they would always make it such an absurd, like, of course Ricky wouldn't actually do that, but ha ha ha, it's so common that spouses get abused that we can like joke about it in every episode. Like, it was because Lucy was in control to a certain extent. And so it turns so many things on their head, but it's still couched in this like family sitcom way. It was a very different show than the Donna Reed show or like Father Knows Best or like all of those other shows of that era. And Kid Crisis loves it. I love Lucy. It was hugely formative to me. Now, watching WandaVision, which we have started doing, she gets all the references. And not only that, but when WandaVision turns to color and their separate beds get pushed together, that's not like just, haha, the beds are moving. Kid Crisis now, we've talked about how showing couples sharing a bed was considered indecent on television, even though obviously in real life, couples were sharing beds. We watched the Lucy is Inciente episode where we talked about how they couldn't say the word pregnant on TV. So to see Wanda get pregnant, and at first that her and Vision don't say that she's pregnant, like Kid Crisis understands that. And I did that very deliberately with I Love Lucy because I knew it was relevant to WandaVision, but I would say that that's true for all sorts of cartoons, all sorts of comics. I think, and it's not just true about 9-year-olds or 12-year-olds. It's like even for like 20-year-olds, like we're just handing them these postmodern forms of media, whether it's comic books or films or TV or music, and we're not asking them to be grounded in the thing that it's mocking or transforming or adding to. And then we're asking them to like have not only a cogent opinion about it, you can have an opinion on any kind of art. Anybody can have any opinion on any kind of art, but we're asking them to engage with the media. And if you don't know that you couldn't show two couples or two people in their marital bed together on TV in the 50s, but then you could in the 60s, then that joke is not going to make any sense to them. And they might be like, I don't understand why the beds were separate. That was a stupid way to show her magic, because you don't have context. And so you could still have an opinion on if the show is funny and if it was good, but when you lack context, then you're doing yourself a disservice with that media. And we as parents, as influencers, as older brothers and sisters and all of these things are doing a disservice to these younger people in our lives by handing them all this media without the precedent for that media. So, I mean, that turned into a full-on moment of crisis. Remember those? So I guess my point is like, I do think we underestimate where kids, I think kids can absolutely watch Hitchcock. They can actually absolutely watch The Twilight Zone. But like, do they have grounding in media literacy to let them understand that? And one of the reasons that I always really held back on like very militarized, very punchy, very male-gazy stuff for the kid is because if that's the media that you start a kid's media literacy with, then their media literacy is punchy, violence, male gaze. But if you start their media literacy with basic building blocks that help them understand storytelling, like Scott McCloud would explain it to you, and then you do it with very gentle forms of media that really focus on characters and friendship over violence or like romance, then by the time that they're old enough to appreciate all those things, they can appreciate those things in a healthy way. Okay. Body by Leafield. Counterpoint. Oh, hold on. I lost it. Oh my gosh, you keep moving. People keep talking. I keep losing it. Body by Leafield. I saw the heavy counterpoint. I saw the heavy metal movie at 6 and I'm a mess. Well, that's the thing. We all saw lots of inappropriate stuff at age 6. But I would argue that in that media environment that we grew up in the 80s, 90s, and 2000s, there was much more older media accessible to us, and it was not as much of a fire hose, and it wasn't a fire hose of derivatives of derivatives of derivatives. Now, with kids being brought up on YouTube of like creators who are our age making jokes from movies that kids are not even aware of. Yes, that's part of media literacy. Like part of literacy is picking up from context of a later generation, just like you can pick up any comic book issue and understand what's going on in that comics. But I really think media literacy is really, really important there. Okay. Whew. Chris Bergen, of course, I'm going to watch it while eating Fruity Pebbles, right? The Lance Library. I don't know what that means. Lance Library, Lucy actually made sexual innuendo in one of the season 1 episodes. There's plenty of sexual innuendo in Lucy. Plenty. Kids don't even have an attention span these days anymore, but this is some fantastic tips for future parents. I mean, I don't even have an attention span. All right, we've got 3 more finest in an epic, and then we get to that stuff at the bottom of the poll that you're going to really judge me for. Here is Amazing Spider-Man Epic number 13. I've seen a lot of people saying that they picked this up. It's called Nothing Can Stop the Juggernaut. It collects Amazing Spider-Man 224 through 241 and Annual 16, which means this is covering the exact same material that the current omnibuses are. It's covering material that is in the Stern omnibus, right? Right? Hold on. Let me look at my darn omnibus sheet. You know, sometimes it's nice to just have a show where I get on and I yammer and it's not the, I don't have a plan and there's no slideshow, but then sometimes I'm like, I don't even have a slideshow. Yeah, this is about 1/3 of what's in the Amazing Spider-Man by Roger Stern omnibus. That collected Amazing Spider-Man 206, 224 to 252, Annual 16 and 17, and then Peter Parker Spectacular Spider-Man 43 to 61 and 85. So this is 226 to 241. So it's about 16 issues worth of that Roger Stern omnibus. Very, very highly regarded Spider-Man stories, some of which I know because I've made some moves in the direction of making a Juggernaut guide. God, Spidey just looks so good here. I gotta look and see who this artist is, because there's like a certain, this is 1982 to 1983. This is when Spider-Man really becomes like my Spider-Man, I think. Not that I was, and it's John Romita Jr., a number of years before he's drawing X-Men. Yeah, with great colors too, by Bob Sharon and Glynis Wein. Really, really love this. And now if we just get that volume 16. Okay, a few more DC Finest. DC Finest Dead Man. This is our only Dead Man collection right now. It collects a huge amount of Dead Man from his debut in 1967 all the way to 1977. And then, which is a huge amount of the existing omnibus, talking about fantastic artists. Neil Adams, who is one of my favorite artists of all time. I read that new Dead Man series that's from the Ice Cream Man people. It's like one of the worst comics I've read in my life. It was so bad. To me, this just there's something just so cool about this Dead Man. And I'm not saying that you can never take a cool character and make him a little bit funny, but he's just a classic character to me. And he's a character that I don't especially want to see given some like modern interpretation. I'm just not into it. Here's a Robin collection of DC Finest. It is Robin, the origin of Robin. Funny that, because it's from 1964 to 1976. So is it really his origin? Some people have speculated you probably could also do a Golden Age Robin, but this collects, a huge part of what is in the Robin Bronze Age omnibus. And since it is 530 pages long, it's like a massive amount of what's in that omnibus. And the reason that we would need this, and we can't just buy Batman, because that is a lot of material from Batman, but it's material that are backup stories from Batman. So I don't know if they'll be in the regular Batman Finest. And then it also has the Robin stories from the beginning of Batman Family 1, 3, and 5. DC is on the record that there's not going to be a Batman Family DC Finest line, because all of the characters that headline stories in Batman Family pretty much would have their own line. And if they don't, they would just go in the Batman line. So Batgirl, they'll be in a Batgirl line. Robin in this line. Man-Bat is somebody who could have a line on his own. And then stories that don't fit anywhere else would just be in the Batman line. So as somebody who doesn't have the Robin Showcase and who doesn't have the Robin Omnibus, this is great for me because it collects all of these key stories of Robin. And pretty much there's no, like, Dick Grayson never really has solo Robin series before he became Nightwing, but he had solo Robin stories, and that's what this collecting. So this will have another edition that will collect the remainder of the Dick Grayson as Robin solo stuff. There's really no Jason Todd's, there's like a Jason Todd solo story. Maybe they throw that in there. And then we would be into Tim Drake, which of course is collected, I'm gesturing off screen, in the Tim Drake collection compendiums. So if you are like puzzling through all this DC Finest stuff and you're like, boy, I wish I had a visual reference, I am going to do a DC Finest collection status update. I'm going to wait until they announce all of the DC Finest for the first quarter of 2027, so I don't just have to do one now and then do one again. And by the way, speaking of Batman content, this is DC Finest Team Ups. This collects team up stories from The Brave and the Bold 106 to 130 and Super Team Family 1 through 7. So this is probably going to be the line that collects all of The Brave and the Bold. And as we've seen from another Team Ups volume that we have that I think is like one, I think there's like a gap in between this. That one starts to collect DC Comics Presents, which was basically Superman team up in the same way that Marvel team up was the Spider-Man team up. And these are not adjacent. This one is 1973 to 1976. This one is 1978 to 1979. They've done that a few times, actually. They did it in the Justice League line, and they did it... There's one other line where they did that, where they released ones that were one book apart. Okay. Let's start with something that was on my FOMO list, but not in this format. Planetary. At this point, am just committed to buying Planetary. It's kind of achieved Dark Phoenix levels for me, where I will have it in every format, except for I don't have it in Omnibus. And that's the one I was actually FOMO'd about. So the reason I ostensibly bought this is I have the original 4 trades, bought them in the same Tower Records that I bought Astonishing X-Men. I have the 2 absolutes, but this includes Planetary Batman, Planetary JLA, and Planetary Authority, which I don't have in those formats, which if I had bought the Omnibus, I would have. So, and I've committed that if it's Wildstorm, I want to have it seems like DC is going to go the paperback route with Wildstorm. We have the Stormwatch Compendium, we have the Wildcats Compendium, but then we also have some Wildstorm omnibuses because we have the Authority omnibuses. So it's kind of like, it's like, which way are they going to go? Like I've wanted them to do Wildstorm for so long. And honestly, for a whole decade, this was the only Wildstorm that was in print. This and sometimes some of the Authority. And so like, I'm so excited that there's slightly more Wildstorm in print, but it doesn't really feel like we've landed on what format. Now, if you're interested in Planetary, let me give you the pitch because a lot of people don't really get what it is. It has nothing to do with the rest of the Wildstorm universe. It's so loosely connected, you would think it was a standalone indie comic. What Planetary is it is the spirit of the Fantastic Four as explorers and scientists. But what it's doing is distilling down that spirit and having these people, this main trio, explore the worlds of fiction. Not in that they're diving into different kinds of fiction, like in Unwritten or Die, but that they're experiencing a world that has a metatextual connection to the kinds of stories that are told in that world. So some of these are like pulp fiction heroes, and they kind of encounter a pulp fiction hero and then investigate that. Some of these are absolutely drawn from manga. Some of these are kaiju stories. Some of these are like horror stories. And basically every issue is its own standalone, some version of some kind of familiar superhero comic book or sci-fi media that is happening as a phenomena in this version of Earth that these people are going to investigate and trying to figure out what generated it. And by the end of the book, you kind of realize to the extent all of those things are connected to each other. It's drawn entirely by John Cassaday, except for some of those insert kind of team up things. And so it's this, and it's John Cassaday in the same period that he is drawing Astonishing X-Men. And so it really, really looks similar to Astonishing X-Men. Of course, this is written by Warren Ellis. So if you love Astonishing X-Men for the art, also, I would say this would really play well to anybody who likes the current run of Ryan North's Fantastic Four. This is a very, very, very similar vibe to that. Only Kane saying the red and blue in the title is something that's stressing my eyes. Well, it's almost like is giving 3D effect, and they're two very competing primary colors. Not my favorite cover treatment in the world, but I love this run. I've read it many times. And again, I don't feel like we understand where they've landed on how they're going to collect all of Wildstorm. And with Planetary, I'm very, very happy to do that. An out of context question. I just bought the thick JLA book for one of the Morrison era. How many books would need to be collected? The whole Morrison thing. I do not know that off the top of my head, but I have a JLA guide and you could probably math it out. And also you can kind of judge it based on how long the Morrison omnibus is. And now we know where that definitively ends because of course there's the the Mark Waid omnibus after that. Okay. Well, here's the final 3. Here's the 2 books. I have never been shamed on air as much as you guys shamed me for not having read these books. How is Planetary for someone who doesn't like Ellis? It's interesting. It's the most Ellis book ever, but it's also Ellis with room to explore all of those things, not constrained by existing characters you might not know or not know, not constrained by an existing universe, and not constrained by like a 4 to 6 issue limit. So I think Planetary is Ellis actually at his best. I think it gives him the most room to stretch out, and because he structures it so that every issue is its own story, it also kind of thwarts his ability to over-engineer things, which he often does, and then it kind of gets too big for him to manage satisfactorily. He explores very similar themes in a lot of his books. Planetary, Authority, Next Wave, Excalibur. Like he has certain wells that he goes back to. For me, I do think he's the most successful in Planetary, and part of it is because it is so decomposable. Okay. I've never been, and of course I got it with 2 different DC spines, and I wouldn't want to have it any other way. Let me just show you the 2 different DC logos. Do you know what this is? I've never been shamed so hard as you all shamed me for saying on the Tigereyes that I had never read Starman. And to be fair, I was not a DC reader, and the only way to get these were those standard-sized omnibuses, right? They were just standard-sized paperbacks or hardcovers, which was just not my jam. Look, that's insane. That's crazy. I mean, it's not just the number of pages. It's also, I guess, like the paper quality. Now, here's the thing. I don't know anything about this other than it's meaningful to Omar. I know that he like takes over the mantle. I don't, and it's by James Robinson. I don't know anything about the art. I don't know anything about the interiors, but here's what I'll say about a lot of and I have volume 2 here as well. Here's what I'll say about a lot of this kind of revered 90s DC. When it's Vertigo, maybe this is just a me thing, but I get so enchanted by the covers of the Vertigo books, and then the interiors have so little to do with that kind of like gothic horror of the covers of something like Sandman that I'm like, or Hellblazer, that I'm like, well, this is not what I signed up for. Like I'm spoiled because in the modern day, you can see somebody like Martin Simmons doing a Dave McKean style cover, and then the interior is also by Martin Simmons, or like Bill Sienkiewicz, who draws a crazy cover and then the interior is crazy. I often find with like Hellblazer and with Sandman, I look at the cover and I get a certain idea in my mind of what the interior is going to be, and then I get to the inside and I'm like, well, this doesn't match that at all. Whereas this, I will say that even though the covers are these very kind of like painterly covers, they are very evocative of this sort of like nostalgia for the golden age in the modern day. And I find the interior art in Starman to carry that through. Like there is something kind of very classic about the interior art, even though it's not painterly like the covers. And because the interior art is so kind of like classic and well formed, I find that it's a good match for me on the covers. So I'm actually really excited for this. I wish I could say it's going to be one of the next things that I'm going to read, but we've been new. So it's not going to be one of the next things I read, but I'm very excited to have it and finally, and be able to read it. And basically, so if we're talking about the rules of my collection, basically I've decided DC Compendiums prior to 2011 are fair game if they're in continuity and they collect something gapless. Like, then I'm in. So I pretty much, that order was me catching up on all of the ones that I didn't have. I already had Nightwing, I already had Robin, I already had the Kyle Rayner Green Lantern. I pretty much have all of them now. The one that I haven't picked up is Batman Black and White, just because it's kind of just all random stories. Good Kid saying the art is gorgeous. Al's in the Barn saying all must read Starman. All. Okay, now we're down to that last thing. But I actually have 2 tiny things before that. One is that I have everything Top Cow ever, and I realized I didn't have all of Aphrodite 9. The problem is that all of the Top Cow that I have is standard size, and I missed getting this in standard size paperbacks, and it was like in the like on sale or damages, or it must have been on sale because I don't usually buy damages on IST. So I was like, oh, like I hate to have it in a different size factor than all of the rest of my Top Cow, but it's literally the only, well, I don't have like all of Witchblade in Darkness, but they're releasing those in those hardcovers, and I truly do have everything else. So this was just to pick up to be like, oh, while I'm making an IST order, let me just get it. Okay. And then the other thing, and I've not seen anyone ever talk about these, which is crazy, is Max and I just were like online shopping one night, as we be doing, and we saw these 2 David Bowie books. This one is Starman, Bowie's Stardust Years. Notice that deboss on the cover. And this is Low, Bowie's Berlin Years. I was like, and so I started asking around, and nobody had any knowledge of it. Like, I couldn't find anybody who read it. It's, you know, this book, the Bowie one, the Stardust one, is covering a very similar period to what that Alred David Bowie book is covering. And it's biographical, and it's kind of going through his development from just this kind of like random shaggy-haired mod rocker into this alien. Oh my God, look at it. I mean, these albums are my Bible, right? Going full Starman with 3 books in one haul. That's funny. I wasn't even thinking that I went from Starman to Starman. Also, French flaps with illustrated interiors. How about that? So, but here's the thing. And this is, by the way, by the publisher Self-Made Hero. Now, I know this Bowie period very, very well, the Ziggy Stardust period, because it's the period I know. The period I don't know as well is his Berlin years with Brian Eno, and they're not albums that I love quite as much. Oh, I think it's the same interior of the flap. Maybe it's a different story, but I think that's the same art that we just saw, right? And the side was, maybe not. But I don't really know anything about this period. So I'm really interested to know, I mean, clearly it's going to have a lot of him doing cocaine. But because these were the cocaine years, this was like the Thin White Duke years. It has him doing some Station to Station, a record that I really, really love. So I'm so excited actually to read this one, because this is a Bowie. And then he did this Commedia dell'arte thing. I actually have the recordings of this. Yeah, I mean, and then it also has like Flights of Fancy. Like, here's him as an astronaut. Of course, this could be him maybe acting in The Man Who Fell to Earth. I don't know. So I'm really, really excited to read this, because I just don't know this period of Bowie's biography quite as well. And you know, Bowie is somebody that I revere. Okay. Are you ready? I saved the best for last. No, but I love David Bowie's drum and bass period. Earthling, You Little Wonder You, or I'm Afraid of Americans. I saw him on that tour. I'm afraid of the world. I'm afraid I can't help it. I'm afraid I can, with Trent Reznor in the video. Okay. This book breaks all the rules. I would describe it as a bad romance. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Oh, that was not the right key. Because I shouldn't have bought it, and I shouldn't own it. Whoa, 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 whoa. No, I'm still in the wrong key. Whoa, 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 caught in a bad romance. Okay. It breaks every rule of my collection. I'm not supposed to own it. I don't have space for it. I don't have the budget for it. But I decided after that FOMO stream that if I am the person I say that I am, and I'm interested in the things that I'm interested in, that I can't not own this. At least the beginning, at least the start. I don't want to be 30 years from now looking at this collection, which is reasonable. It's been with me for 16 years so far, so it could still be here for another 30. I don't want to not have it. So finally, this is the first Marvel Omnibus I own of all material from after 2013, because I do have Young Avengers. This is the first physical X-Men that I own after 2015, except for House of X, which I have purely for reference and reasons, just for the more lives. And this does mean I'm at least committed to getting this through X of Swords, possibly through Inferno. And then after that, I might just be happy just buying the Kieran Gillen book after that. I don't know. But it's here, and it's real, and I have it. So I just got, and the reason I got it is because I knew the volume 2 restock was coming on the IST. So I was like, this is my chance. After going through all of the other FOMO on this stream, some of the stuff costs so much money. I was saying to somebody in the chat before the stream, I wanted some Tank Girl comics from the state. The Tank Girl comics were about, I don't know, $60, 45 to $60. The shipping was an omnibus. So to get an omnibus shipped, it's even more of an omnibus of shipping in omnibus. And so now we're doing it. But that's not all. Because also on my FOMO list. And I realized something that's so important to me that I would be angry if the anthology book skipped some of the stuff in it, which they surely will. This now holds the distinction of being the book I've paid the most over cover price for because I found a copy in Australia. So the shipping wasn't expensive. So the amount, if I'd bought it for cover price in the States, I still would have spent more than I spent on this getting it to New Zealand. But technically it is the most over cover price I have ever paid for a book. But the shipping was cheap. Which is Judgment Day. Which is my favorite Marvel event. And if I'm going to go hard for my boy, Kieran Gillen, then I got to go hard. And you know what? I would reread this today. I love this. It is the best Marvel event. I would, if I had to pick a Marvel event to reread once a week for 52 weeks consecutively, I would pick Judgment Day. That's how much I love this. Would I skip the X-Force tie-ins every time? Yes. But first of all, it's almost all written by Kieran Gillen, over 50%, and the rest of it is mostly written by Al Ewing and Cy Spurrier. And then the couple of random issues that are in there, it's like we're not even talking about anything. Then Ben Percy writes a handful of other issues. Jerry Dugan writes a handful of other issues. And at that point, we're down to like only 3 issues by other people. It's by a brain trust who are my favorites. This is the result of that damn FOMO show. I never in a million years thought I would own a Marvel event physically from after 2015. And I am not buying Absolute Carnage. I am not buying King of Black. I'm not buying War of the Realms, even though I like many of those events. They're not important to me the way that this is. Well, War of Kings. Tigereyes, that's close. War of Kings, well, they're on my FOMO list too. So if they ever reprint all the War of Kings omnibuses, then we'll know the answer. I just think War of Kings, so much of it happens off to the side and is not as like tied into the central story. Whereas this, I have an explicit every issue reading order of this, and it makes perfect sense in that order. One Wheelchair saying we didn't rank it as the highest tier of X-Men events for no reason. That's right. It wasn't just the FOMO, it wasn't just the FOMO stream. It was that this is also really, truly my favorite event. And then you corroborated that. Edwin Billiot saying, my only complaint about Judgment Day was how Jean was judged. Yeah, but Jean was also an awesome character. Oh, wait, but I have one more secret thing that you know what? We'll save for the next fall. Save for the next fall. Don't look up there. Okay, so that's it. Look, here's what I leave you with, other than, boy, was the makeup good today. Here's what I leave you with. I am not encouraging you to do this. I have A, problem, but B, I've dedicated my life to this. Like, I spent all weekend, every waking moment this weekend, either working on stuff for this channel, working on Crushing Crisis, or working on Near Mint Condition. This is what it's about for me. And so I'm not saying you shouldn't get all these things, but when don't look at my haul and be like, well, how am I going to keep up with Crisis? First of all, this is 3 months of books. I only do this every 10 to 12 weeks, so it's always 3 months of books. And the other thing is, I buy every Epic Collection DC Finest because I truly use the shelves as a reference library. So that's another caveat. But then on top of that, like, you might be like, well, you have other hobbies, surely. I don't. All I buy is nice shirts, hair care products, makeup, and comic books. I've not gone out to eat in 6 years. I don't have other hobbies. So I just want to, I want to emphasize to you that this, except for that one time with Samantha in Auckland, I want to emphasize to you that I don't do this to try to encourage you to go out and achieve what I'm achieving by owning all these books. It's not a good idea. I should be putting all of this money in an investment vehicle. I'm not here doing this haul to make you have FOMO. I'm trying to do it as a little bit of a cautionary tale and a little bit of explaining the books and trying to connect you to the specific ones that you liked. I succeeded if you came away from this looking at 1 or 2 of these books going, I would really like to read that book. I have failed if you have come away from this thinking, I want all of those books. That's not why I do it. So I always want to say that because I just don't want to engage in the full-on capitalism of it. Because here's my special message for today, which is a little different than my normal one, which is like, don't let capitalism ruin your love of things. Sometimes, and I've said this before, I really get obsessed with exchanging dollars for money. Or no, that's what dollars are. Exchanging dollars for product. Like you know, I'll get a book, not this book, not a book that I literally almost teared up and screamed when we saw that one panel of Ziggy Stardust in it, but a book where I spend $20 and I just get a book and I go, 20 book. Oh, because the book is so much easier to like appreciate than $20, right? $20 is a crisp bill in your hand, and saving it is good, and it might compound in interest $1 a year, and then it's $21, and then it's $22.10. But like, it's hard to appreciate that $20. Whereas this book, which is not going to gain interest, it's much easier to touch and look at and see a pink thing on your shelf, right? But like, that's a trick that's been played on us by this consumerist world that we live in, that it's more attractive to have a thing to occasionally run your fingers over or pick up than it is to have money. And the thing that I've really tried to do, and I think what the FOMO list was about for me, it was trying to make a list of the things that I really fear that I'm never going to get to see and touch and have on my shelves, and try to evaluate, is it really worth trading money in for that or not? And I did take some stuff off the list after we had that show, but it also allowed me to go, you know what? If this is really it, and there's nothing else, there's no more bottom of the barrel to scrape. Like, that's it. That's all the comics that I was interested in. If these are the comics I'm interested in, rather than paying $300 or $400 from them years from now to get them shipped from the United States, should I try to find a good deal on them now? And that's what I did. So my message to you is like, when you are deciding to exchange money for goods and services, are you exchanging the money just because the goods and services are easier to wrap your mind around than the $20 bill? Or are you doing it because it truly makes you happy? Because you know what? We all have to worry about the future. We've got to worry about what we're going to do when we're older. We've got to worry what happens in times of stress and in times of injury and in times of global catastrophe. We've got to worry about our kids. But at some point, we also need to be happy for a couple of minutes. And if you can exchange that $20 for being really happy, and if it's something physical that's going to make you happy again and again and again and again for as long as you own it, then that $20 did have compounding interest. The compounding interest is your happiness. Now, you can't spend that $20 every single day, because not only will you run out of money, but you'll run out of space in your house. I am the poster child of that. But I'm here to tell you that as much as compounding interest in your bank account makes sense, compounding happiness makes sense too. And when you're choosing what to spend your dollars on and you're deciding if you have FOMO or not, the test is not how quickly the book is going to sell out. The test is not how much you would spend on in the aftermarket. The test is how much compounding happiness you are going to get from having it in your house, reading it, talking about it with your friends, and sharing it with your loved ones. And if you did that test, then you truly bought the thing that you should not have missed out on. Until I see you next, which should be on Tuesday evening on Near Mint Condition, to talk about every Spider-Man omnibus ever, or in the after party in 2 minutes, please don't have a crisis. Unless, of course, it's me.